Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto nearly killed Sasuke and everyone hated him part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto feels something warm against his chest as his eyes flutter open and immediately blushes, finally seeing his cousin snuggle further into him with his arm loosely around her side. Out of instinct, he pulls her in closer, much to his confusion, but he doesn't question it, noting how her head fits perfectly under his chin even though they were almost the same height. He shakes the thought away, remembering that Karen was his direct cousin. Information that he now finally knows thanks to Ero Sennin. He gently lifts her off of him, careful not to wake her, and goes to get himself ready for the day. Just as he stands up, the sound of his guardian's flute playing begins to echo through the house, which in turns causes Karen to awake. Naruto. The blonde couldn't help but smile seeing Karen, her eyes not fully open yet as she was still half asleep, struggling to sit up. Time for brushing our teeth and morning stretches. She groans in response, obviously not in the mood, but a familiar voice speaks up, her body responding at full attention. Afterwards, we need to talk. The Uzumaki kids turn to see their guardian standing at the stairway, wearing one of her usual athletic outfits. This time it was her, a black knotted, long-sleeved crop top over a forest-leaved patterned comfort bra and matching leggings that sat snugly above the hips, finished with black aerobics shoes on her feet. Good morning kids. After the usual routine we will need to talk about what you guys learned yesterday from Jiraiya-sama. They nodded solemnly and watched as she left first, her ponytail swishing as she walked to the fitness room. Hey Naruto. Yeah, any idea what time she came home yesterday? Naruto shrugs, turning to face his cousin and stretching out his hand to help her out of the sofa. Don't worry about it, Karen, she probably was busy with work or something. Quote. Karen says nothing, letting Naruto help her, but she knew what she saw. Peeking out from the neck of her guardian's shirt was a hickey. Did Oni-sama have a boyfriend? At that moment, Kakashi sneezed, causing Sasuke, who was sitting across from him, to look on in disgust. At least you had the decency to turn from the table. Kakashi rolls his good eye before reaching out for the onigiri when Sasuke glares at him, telling him to wash his hands and mouth. I wear a mask, Sasuke. Even more so, who knows how much germs is in there. Kakashi did not miss the twinkle in the boy's eye, still curious about what I look like, huh? Kakashi couldn't help but smile. Sasuke really did have a cute side to him, noting his cheeks turning slightly pink from emberment. Ino groaned. She just had a really long talk with both her parents this morning over breakfast. It was embering and absolute torture for her face as they gave her the talk. She half thought she was going to faint from shame. She rubs at her temples, feeling a migraine coming on. She wondered if Karen-san's talks with Mashiro-san was more comfortable. Suddenly, she remembered the idea she had last night, making her grin. Let's do this. So, how are all of you feeling? Rina asks her wards as she mixes the pancake batter. Naruto turned to look at Karen, who was still drying her hair after their respective showers from this morning's family stretch and pool workout. Guys, did something happen? Rina turns to look at them, looking flawless as ever in her ivory-toned silk robe. Oni-sama, Karen began, adjusting her towel over her shoulder. We only have one question. The older Kunichi nods before Naruto attempted to ask the question. Why do you care about us? I mean not that we are not grateful, but why, you know, Pervy Sage told us you approached him to tell us everything, but how did you know that he knew? Like you must have known something about the Uzumaki clan, right? Rina smiles softly, resisting the urge to hug her ward because he was a blushing, stuttering mess moments before. She folds her arms in front of her chest, ignoring the face that Naruto asked more than one question. To answer that, I Will need to tell you all my full name, which is one secret that has never been documented or said out loud since my parents' death. Naruto's eyes widened and Karen adjusted her glees, curious. Both of you, swear on your family name that this information never leaves this room. Quote. They nod their heads, wondering what would make them swear to great secrecy. Irina Uzumaki Mashiro. Nanny. Rina laughs, unable to help it, seeing the baffled looks on her wards' faces. My mother was an Uzumaki, but just like your mother's, became a refugee after the village's land became barren. Maybe one day, we could. Before she could finish what she was saying, her kids ran to her and each hugged a leg, crying much to her surprise. Karen. Naruto. The two continued to sob and unable to decipher what the kids were trying to say through all the sniffles and tears, she knelt down and hugged them tight. I brought you two together under my guardianship because we are family. Naruto, you needed a home and someone to watch over you, and Karen, you needed the support of someone who truly cares about you. I love you both very much. I have never thought I could be this happy till the two of you became part of my world. Quote. We love you too, Nei-chan, Oni-sama. Rina smiles and kisses them both on the foreheads before hugging them again. Those two kids were oh so precious to her. Kiba grinned and high-fived Choji. The Konoha 12-Team 7 were gathered at Training Ground 27 and Ino had just told them her idea. Much to her delight, everyone agreed with the plan. Shikamaru yawns, knowing that organizing the party will be a drag. I'm providing location. The Naras have an infertile land near our forest that we use for our own special training area. We could use that, but I need to ask my dad first. Choji gave a thumbs up in approval. My dad and I will provide food. Quote. I will do invitations, announces Ino proudly. Tenten stands, excited. Team 9 will handle the decorations. That means, we Team 8 are left with entertainment. Shino adds in, his sungles glistening under the sun. Alright then, let's hold it. Ino cuts in Kiba, raising his hand. I don't think we should invite Sasuke to this party. There were soft mumbles of agreement among the group. Even Sakura's name was mentioned thanks to Tenten because she dislikes how Sakura treats Naruto, and since no one made to object except for Lee because he wants to be nice to everybody, Ino was about to verbally agree, but Hinata spoke up. Sasuke-kun has had it rough since he came back to the village and Naruto-kun bears no ill will against him. I don't think Naruto-kun will like it. Kiba growls unhappily, disagreeing. Sasuke is bastard. He does not deserve pity. He could have actually killed Naruto. But Sasuke-kun has been shown mercy. Quote. It is because of him all us were in the hospital, Hinata-chan. Or did you forget? The Hyuga closes her mouth and turns away, not knowing what else she could say, causing Ino to sigh. Look, Rina-san seems like a fair lady. Since we are throwing the party for her and her wards, I think she old appreciate the presence of her new team anyway. Shikamaru shakes his head. What makes you think Sasuke will even show up? The blonde Yamanaka shrugs. Hey, nobody knows what that broody bastard is thinking. I'll pay him an invitation regardless, and if he shows up we just won't let him be a buzzkill, okay? Akamaru barks in distaste and Kiba just deadpans. He hopes the Uchiha doesn't come to the party at all. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke and Kakashi stopped walking to see Sakura running over, holding out 2 orange envelopes, and the 2 males cautiously opened them only to find invites to a surprise party for the Uzumaki family. We should all go together. Sasuke rolls his eyes. I'm not going. I hate these things, besides the other genin hate me. Kakashi shakes his head. Sasuke, you have to go. It'll be a gesture of goodwill, especially so when it provides a good opportunity to the others that you are not a complete bastard. The Uchiha's eye twitched, unhappy with his sensei's remark. Please, Sasuke-kun. Sakura hugs his arm, trying to give him the cutest pleading expression she could muster, and Sasuke just sighed, knowing Sakura would probably not give in. Why are they throwing a party for them anyway? What's so special about them being adopted? Quote, Kakashi sighs, because they are no longer alone and they have each other. They will be a family. Overrated if you ask me. Quote, this time, Kakashi says nothing. He wasn't in the mood to deal with his antisocial behavior. Personally, he would like to go just to show his support to Naruto. He finally had a home after all. Later, the trio finally reach their training spot for the day and finds the Uzumaki family already there. Rina was doing pull-ups on a sturdy tree branch and everyone could see that she had her shirt off, exposing the cage bra she had on underneath, giving a nicely rounded appearance to her large S. Just the sight of her perspiring form in her tight ninja outfit brought back memories for Kakashi, and damn, it was hard trying not to undress her with his good eye. Then he gets an idea. He lifts up his headband showing his Sharingan activated. He had to remember to thank Obito in his next prayer when he visits. Whilst his other two students were watching their fellow teammates, Naruto and Karen Uzumaki warming up with each other. They had just seen the two in a high plank and repeatedly back and forth touching the other's shoulder with one hand, alternating each turn. Now they had changed positions, this time in a side plank back to back with each other, constantly tapping hands with one another. That's quite a warm-up. Sakura comments, wondering how they managed to stay planking for so long. The two cousins look up in sync and they slowly stood up. Naruto puts on his jacket and Karen wipes her hands on her skirt. Just on time, I see, says Rina, as she puts her shirt back on. How long have you all been here? Asks Sasuke, curious. An hour. But we had a good warm-up in. Answers Naruto, enthusiastic as per usual. Sakura was confused. Why come so early? It is better to be early than late. Being late is undisciplined, says Karen, causing everyone to look at Kakashi, who was barely affected by the jab. Hi. Sakura, please lead in the academy-style stretching routine. I want this team to build in synchronicity. Why me? Don't question it and just do it. The pink kid reluctantly obeys, seeing the exasperated expression on Rina's face. Kakashi, we are doing it with them. What for? She merely gives him a look that practically screamed obey me, so he does so, knowing that Rina can be one scary bitch if you dare try to defy her. Gaara read the letter again, wondering if he was hallucinating or something. He just couldn't believe it. He and his siblings were invited to a party. An actual party with people of their own age. Tamari was admiring the neatly written but clearly intricately decorated crafted cards that were a light red hue in color tone. They came in orange envelopes, much to Konkuro's displeasure. He hated loud colors. You three should go. I'll get the paperwork sorted out for you, says Baki, causing the siblings to turn to him. We need an escort. Konkuro mutters. I will play the role. Not to worry. The Konoha Genin went out of the way to invite you all, so it's only fair to respond accordingly. Quote, Tamari didn't miss a beat. You just want us to do this so that we continue to build trust with them again. Baki casts a smirk their way before leaving. Nothing gets past you. Gaara shakes his head, reading the part in the letter that mentioned Naruto. He really wanted to see the cheerful blonde again. They had a lot in common and Naruto was a good influence to him. It would be nice to spend time together. He picks up a piece of paper and takes a brush, writing a response letter. We will be glad to come. Kakashi gives Rina a soft peck on the mouth before adjusting his trousers again. She was wearing her belt as she leans in and kisses him lightly on his throat, causing a soft moan to sound, making the Kunyuchi giggle. After adjusting themselves properly, they emerge from the woods side by side. That was fun. Rina winks at him, saying nothing. She had her hands behind her back, but it was clear she was satisfied because she had almost a little skip in her steps. We should have dinner one day. Rina blinked, turning to him. You sure about that? Who's going to babysit? Kakashi couldn't help it. He let out a snort at the word babysit. The kids were genin after all. They could take care of themselves until he realized what she actually meant. Sasuke was his ward and he had to be in constant observation. That night when they first had, it was all good because Pakun kept watch. But a date, Kakashi needed more time off. He lets out a loud sigh causing Rina to smirk. Missed the huh? I missed you Irina Koi. Rina stops walking, her face reddening but before she could come with a witty response. The genins returned. She immediately makes them do cooling off exercises by demonstrating and they follow her lead without a fight. Sasuke could only scowl when he notices that Naruto and Karen were a lot less out of breath than himself and Sakura. He wondered what kind of training did their guardian actually give them. Now, let's see some ninjutsu. Sasuke, you're up. Sasuke nonchalantly enters the circle, while doing the hand signs, Raikyu. The genin watch in awe as spheres of electrical energy begin to form and Sasuke launches them forward at the trees before him but much to everyone's surprise. The trees still stood. What the hell? They should have given out more damage. Quote, Kakashi shrugs, maybe these trees are more sturdier than the trees you usually use for target practice. Sasuke scowls before doing another set of hand signs and jumping high into the air, Raisin. Quote, he pulls out a Fuma shuriken, infuses it with his lightning chakra and hurls it at the earlier trees. He hits one, cutting one tree in two and everyone watches as the top half of the tree falls to the ground. Still sturdy Kakashi. Kakashi rolls his good eye while Rina merely congratulates Sasuke for his hard work, praising him. Well Sasuke, it seems like your Raikyu technique still needs work so make sure Kakashi helps you with that. Run along. Kakashi makes a shadow clone, waving it off to take Sasuke away from the group prompting Karen to come forward for her turn. Doden. Kengan no Jutsu. She performs the seals quickly and her cousin watches in shock as she punches the ground, encasing her whole wrist and fist in rock. Using her chakra. She lunges forward and smashes a hole into the tree. Karen smirks triumphant as she watches the tree fall. Alright there kiddo, nice job so what technique do you need advice on today? Quote, Karen walks over to Kakashi, saying she needed help on the rock bullet jutsu. The new shadow clone takes Karen aside, leaving Sakura and Naruto left. Enough of trees. Let's see you two go at it. Naruto grins enthusiastic but Sakura visibly looked nervous but nonetheless moves to stand opposite of Naruto in a battle stance. Before the Pinkett could finish her seals, Naruto had already cast his jutsu. Futon Shuriken. Sakura is thrown back by an invisible force. She falls on her back, completely taken down. She groaned, realizing that because the shuriken were wind-natured, she wouldn't have seen it coming anyway. Sakura, get up. Let's see your fire jutsu. The Pinkett clicks her tongue in annoyance, frustrated but does stand up and she makes a few hand seals. Kaden. Fire breath. Sakura takes a deep breath, shoots out an unmistakably small stream of fire that does not even reach Naruto's position. She flushes in emberment, trying again but when it failed once more, Rina had enough. Do you have any other techniques? And no. This is the only one I know. Kakashi frowns, how can that be? Didn't you research? Yeah, I was so busy and didn't have time. I have a lot of housework, Tsunade-sama's please, shop duties and leave. Sakura blinks, looking up to see Rina with a cold look in her eyes. If you aren't going to put in the work, I suggest you make your exit and don't bow. They're coming back. I am willing to put in the work. You didn't even bother to learn two techniques. Like I asked. Sakura hangs her head in shame, unable to speak any further and she apologizes profusely but Rina was getting mighty peeved. She turns, addressing everyone. After this, we are going on an excursion but only if all of you behave and Sakura you need to get your shit together. Pull another stunt like this again and I will have you removed from the team and recommend that you are to be removed from the ninja force. Quote, That's too harsh. Just because I didn't learn more than one technique. Your reasoning for not being able to complete is because you have other obligations, right? Obviously, releasing you from Team 7 is the best way for you to properly ease your burden, right? Quote. Sakura could only gape. Odd. She didn't mean it like that. She felt small as her other teammates and even the Kakashi clones were all staring at her. Is this lady serious? Tsunade drank down her sake and tossed the cup aside like a piece of paper, ignoring the sound of broken GL. What presents do I get those kids, Shizune? Shizune's sweat dropped at her obviously drunk master, wondering why was she still disturbed by the sight even after all these years with her. Maybe some ninja tools. Quote. Boring. Shizune sighs, unsure of what else to say. Suddenly, a hawk flies in and places a scroll on the table. Shizune opens it without another word and reads it quickly. The Sand siblings are coming. Isn't that great, Tsunade-sama? Great. But what the am I giving the kids? Meanwhile, two genin girls were in the library looking over books on baking grandiose type of cakes. One of them makes a joke causing the other to laugh. After a loud shush from someone nearby, the Hyuga girl covers her mouth with a pink blush on her cheeks. Ino and Hinata were trying their hardest not to giggle in the library, but they couldn't help it. Just the thought of Naruto stuffing his face in a ramen look-alike dessert cake was sure to drive him crazy. Ino made the joke which caused the girls to laugh. Eventually Hinata rejects the idea politely, saying that the party was also for Karen and Rina-sensei. They needed something more general, which gives her a brilliant idea. Ino leans over the table as Hinata draws a new sketch, but this time, it was three-tier cake. Ino just looked on in awe as her friend quickly rendered in the colors of yellow, orange, red and brown. Once finished, she turns to the blonde and explains the concept of the colors: orange to represent Naruto obviously, red for Karen-san and light yellow for Rina-san because Ino described her to be a warm person. Ino nodded her head vigorously, she couldn't wait to start on the cake now. What do you think? Should we invite Tamari-san and Tenten to help with baking? I think it'll be a nice bonding experience, right? Quote. Hinata frowns. What about Sakura-san? Ino face palms. Sometimes she hated how nice Hinata could be, but Ino really didn't want Sakura there, but she understand the point of including everyone. Wah! What are you two doing? Quote. The two girls turned to see Kakashi there and breathed a sigh of relief. They explained quick pleasantries and showed him the design of the cake. You're not inviting my cute pink student. Would she even want to come? It's a girls' bonding session, so Sasuke won't be there, plus I'm not sure if she can keep her mouth shut. Kakashi tilted his head confused. But you invited her to the party, no? Ino rolls her eyes, jerking her thumb in Hinata's direction causing her to sweat drop. Anyways, have you RSVP'd already, Kakashi-sensei? Ah well, Sasuke is showing a lot of reluctance and I have to watch him, so. Oh. Hinata looked visibly sad, but Ino on the other hand, grinned in glee. By all means. If he doesn't come, that means Forehead Girl won't come either. Let him do whatever he wants. Shush. Ino covers her mouth, embered, while Hinata shakes her head. Anyo, Kakashi-sensei, could you try talking to him? I'm sure Naruto-kun would be really happy seeing all of you there. For you, Hinata-hime, I will try. The heiress shyly blushes, causing Kakashi to smile. He wondered if Sasuke would ever tell the Hyuga heiress how he felt about her. Rina claps her hands, catching her students' attention. They were now all gathered at the bottom steps of the Konoha library. They had been in there for an hour, looking for books on their respective element. Excursion is over. All of you have your research material. Please go over them and make sure you start from the bottom, which means working on D rank until Kakashi clears you proficient for the next rank. Understood. The kids nodded, trying to ignore the aching in their arms from the heavy jutsu books they were carrying. Karen and Sasuke is proficient, the two of you are in ninjutsu. I want you to just like the rest of the team, to completely master the basics first. Clear. Hi. Rina nods her head in approval and dismisses them all. She waves the others goodbye before taking her kids away. She leads her wards onward, gently with her hands on their backs, smiling as the two mutually complained of their heavy load. Sasuke-kun, could you help me with my books? No. Sasuke walks away, annoyed, while Sakura sulks away in the opposite direction. Kakashi sees all of this and wonders if he should tell Sakura about Ino's plan while keeping one eye on Sasuke. Sasuke is so cool and strong. Scratch that. Ino wouldn't be too thrilled if Sakura suddenly showed up without an actual invite. He decides it's better to leave it up to the female genin. He wishes Sakura a quick goodbye and quickly heads off to follow his ward before he left his line of Visi. On. Kakashi, you're not serious, are you? Kirine was wondering if the secretive ninja finally lost it. He had just come into the bar, walked straight up to them to ask her and Asuma for help. Asuma raised an eyebrow, clearly suspicious as well. Aren't you supposed to be the one to supervise? Sasuke, did the Hokage say you can push it off to someone? Lady Hokage said as long as he is being watched by Junin and higher, it's fine for a short-term period of time. Look, it's only one night, okay? I really need this night off. To say she was perplexed was one thing, she was downright sure something was wrong. She had never seen Kakashi so impatient before. Why do you need this night specifically? Is something the matter? I need to make right with someone, and if I don't do it now, I don't think I can stand being near that person till it's done. Asuma sighs heavily. Kakashi never asked for help unless it was dire. It was odd that he was asking for I stance, and it's not like the task was hard anyway. Okay Kakashi, we will help babysit Sasuke for you. Rina was doing vertical push-ups when she noticed that her wards was trying one of the new exercises she had shown them. She moved back into a normal standing on her feet position and turned to see her wards already in a supported shoulder stand stance. Naruto was lying on the floor with both arms extended over his shoulders, his feet elevated, and knees bent for his partner, Karen, to hold onto with her hands tight. Lee holding onto just below his knees in her upper traps and shoulders in Naruto's hands. Karen's objective in this exercise was to lift herself fully in inversion, but supported only by Naruto's knees and hands. The shoulder stand position sounds complicated, but it wasn't really. It was all about communication and working as a team. Both parties must use their entire bodies in distinct ways to pull this off properly, which in turn helped to build up their strength. Karen, focus more on your core. You need the strength of your core to properly lift your hips over Naruto's shoulders in order to get your legs in position. Hi, Naruto, how you doing down there? Quote, gee good. Naruto replied with sweat beading his brow. Rina couldn't help but smile. It would be better if you keep your elbows locked, and press away from your chest like you are locking out a push-up. Understand? Hi. The doorbell rang and Rina immediately left the room to see who it was, but she was completely immersed in her own thoughts as she absent-mindedly made her way to the door. Naruto. She was slowly but steadily training her wards to be a steady duo by making them partner each other in exercises, joint taijutsu battles against her, and of course house chores. But aside from that, she had personally made sure to tend to their own special needs. She focused heavily on ensuring Naruto had a healthy, well-balanced diet alongside a solid foundation of his academy studies. Naruto had grown up on eating practically the same dish since he was 4, so it was only natural that Rina would push for him to eat other foods of other varied flavors and genre. He was stubborn at first, but eventually the blonde grew to really enjoy eating other foods and had taken an interest in cooking along with his cousin. As for Karen also, she had mostly just ate porridge or simple rice dishes for as long as she can remember, so being served delicious looking foods made her very grateful too. However, taking the reins of looking after Naruto was harder than she thought. he had major learning difficulties. He found it hard to read certain letters, and she finally understood why only after the physicals she made her words go through. Naruto had dyslexia. In other words, the blonde had a disability towards reading. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto was smart, quick to adapt, extremely creative yet fairly analytical only if and when he was able to properly be calm and able to practically think, hence why Naruto had somehow survived and ped the academy with his at the time, undiagnosed dyslexia. As much as she adored Naruto, teaching him was a challenge, especially since at first, he could only comprehend small words like a, and, me and hi. However, it was a pleasant surprise for her to find that if things are properly explained to him and he can understand it, he has fairly good memory of the matter. She was also grateful to Karen, who had also been helping to tutor Naruto in his studies if Rina was not around. Rina adored Naruto, and she always made sure to tell the blonde that his dyslexia was not a liability unless he lets it, so he works very hard with her to make sure he could read as effectively as possible at the least. For Karen, Rina did not have to prepare anything super extensive. She just had to spend time with Redhead. However, she wanted both of her wards to feel that they were equally attended to, so whatever she was doing that they could observe or contribute to. She would ensure they were there to experience everything, whether it was cooking or gardening or exercising or even shopping. Karen's only problem was that she grown up without real care and attention, so Rina ensured to take time out of her day to visit the red-haired girl in her room to just talk about whatever. Whether she wanted help with her medical studies or just getting to know each other regarding anything. Sometimes, Rina would pull out games for them to play like Sudoku or word search or hell even shogi. Heck, there were even times Karen surprised her by asking about skincare and hairstyling. It was immensely fun, and Karen, even though she was the most awkward one at first in the early dynamics for the family, she grew to love her new sister and brother dearly, which warmed her heart. The knocking got louder. Rina finally reached it and opened the door only to frown in confusion seeing who it was. Kakashi. Why are you here? Honestly. The green-haired young adult sighed before folding her arms, obviously. Quote, I missed you. I missed us. You mean Rina pointed out bluntly despite the obvious sincerity that Junin had in his voice. Sake. That's not what I want. Rina eyed Kakashi carefully, wondering what was his game. Where's Sasuke? Quote, he's under the supervision of my dog Summons. You can't do that forever, Kashi. I know, and I will go back, but only if you answer one question. Oh, Kakashi bit his lip under his mask, his uncertainty of what her answer will be giving him major anxiety. Would you please go on AD 8 with me? Rina legitimately froze, wondering if she heard right and also wondering whether the usual stoic man was drunk or on something. Irina, Kakashi began, trying to find the right words to convince her. I am sorry that I was not able to see you after we came back. After all, that time, I was put into an arranged engagement to your captain, I know. Kakashi immediately stiffened at the memory. Nobody knew about the infiltration mission they shared in Kumo. That very mission where they fell in love. But as soon as they got back and were ready to begin properly dating as Kakashi and Rina, she was forced into a marriage arrangement by the council. Kakashi at the time couldn't even approach her because she was forced on leave to prepare for the wedding. The memories of that time clouded his mind, and Kakashi rubbed a hand over his face in displeasure. He looks at Rina again to see a downcast look on her face now. Of course he couldn't blame her, she was engaged to Itachi after all. After what he did, Irina was back on Anbu duty and immediately promoted to Anbu head, but she was under severe scrutiny for what happened too for a good period of time because many Black Ops agents blamed her for not seeing anything beforehand, and it made her more aloof than usual, making her difficult to approach. But Kakashi was not going to think about that now. Past is past. Now he needed to focus on his present. So you want to lock me down? Is that it? The voice sounded cold and calculating as expected of a former head of Anbu, but Kakashi got perplexed by it. He was ridden with nerves and here she was doubting his intentions. Oh, for I like you, Irina. It's not about the for me. Is it? Kakashi gulped instantly. He knew that look. She was staring at him as if he was an enemy trying to subtly getting information from her. She was actively calculating what she would do to him if he really rubbed her the wrong way. Then let's make a bet. If you can survive without touching me for tonight's date all the way till midnight, you have yourself a deal. Quote. Kakashi seriously wondered if Irina was a sadist. She now had a mischievous grin on her face. She knew damn well that due to their previous moments with each other, Kakashi wouldn't be able to take long without touching her. That's cruel and unusual. My terms. Take it or leave it. She looks up at him, smug until she felt his lips on hers. Rina's first instinct was to push him, so she moved both her hands to his chest, ready to push him off her porch, but Kakashi had already hugged her with his strong arms and slid his tongue into her mouth, making the idea of resistance a lost cause. She lets out a small squeal in his mouth when he lifts her up suddenly with his arms. She wraps her legs around him, caught up in his paean, and he presses her back against the wall next to her front door as he kisses her neck. Do not make a sound or you will alert the kids, Rina. This, he could do. No words needed to be shared for this. He could look as hungry and as needy as he wanted. He could shamelessly love her and she couldn't scrutinize any of it because she would get caught up in him too, leaving her unhinged. Invulnerable for his taking. For that short while, she didn't, but she had no idea that a certain ward of hers could hear everything. Karen looked at Naruto, wondering what was wrong with him. He was doing sit-ups but his eyes were squeezed shut. She drank from her water bottle, still watching him. It was then she got an idea on what could be going on because Naruto's face was as red as a tomato. You can hear them, huh? Naruto nodded bashfully and Karen couldn't help but laugh. You really are too cute, Naru. Don't call me cute, Rin. I'm a boy, but boys can be cute too. She giggles, causing Naruto to lose focus and start laughing with her too. I hope Oni-sama comes back soon. There's more exercises I wanna try. Let's do the wheelbarrow ones first. They're easier. Says Naruto as he wipes the sweat off his forehead. Karen readily agrees, moving into position with her cousin in the hopes Naruto could properly ignore what was going on outside. Naru was her cousin, who was also incredibly naive and innocent, which was honestly absolutely adorable to her. She hoped to actively enjoy that for a good long while. She had personally been through enough to know what humans could be like, but Naruto wasn't like any of that. He is always kind and honest to everyone, and it made her happy that Naru was such a good guy. She felt safe with him. She thanked the heavens above every day for blessing her with the presence of her Oni-sama and Naruto, a family she could call her own. Truly, thank you. Sasuke merely stared blankly at the two Junin Kakashi introduced him to. He recognized Kirine and Asuma as other senseis of the other two teams in his generation, but he didn't care much about them, especially less so after Kakashi explained that they're watching over him or the day. He hated having to be watched all the time, but he supposed on the upside, it made him look like a formidable ninja in a way. Asuma. Kirine. I need your opinion. Sasuke turned, curious until his expression changed into one of surprise seeing Kakashi dressed casual. He was in a long gray coat, a white dress shirt underneath but top two buttons unbuttoned, black sacks and black leather shoes. As per normal, Kakashi hid his face and eye but in a medical grade face mask and eye patch this time instead of his usual ninja garb. If it wasn't for his usual styling of his hair, Sasuke wasn't sure he would recognize the man. Asuma let out a wolf whistle and Kirine couldn't help but smirk. For you to dress up this much and put on cologne, I'm impressed. She must be worth it. Kakashi couldn't help but smile, glad that his mask wasn't able to make it visible as he headed towards the door. Thanks again for doing this, you two. Don't wait up for me, okay? Kirine, you may use my bed to sleep in. Asuma, you take the couch. Of course, man. Don't you worry. Kirine and I can handle it. Sasuke, don't do anything I wouldn't do. The broody tween rolled his eyes, but waved nonchalantly as Kakashi left the apartment. Irina had just entered the restaurant. She knew as per normal a lot of eyes were on her, and hell did she love the attention. It made her feel powerful, and why? She expertly uses her oral seduction technique, elegantly removing her coat off her shoulders, her exposed back in full view as her beige dress became prominent to whoever it was watching. It was high fashion, expensive, and clearly it hugged her curves in all the right places as if it was made to fit her figure. She flipped her hair effortlessly after the waiter had confirmed the reservation and escorted her to her table. Kakashi supposedly chose a very nice table for their date. She slyly noted how everyone took notice of the slit of her dress on the right thigh, exposing a lot of leg that made the men she walked past drool and women glare in envy as her stilettos clicked on the hardwood floor. She finally turns to the front to see Kakashi already there, but he wasn't paying attention to her. He seemed spaced out as he stared at the candle in front of him that was on the table, but he looked handsome in his never-before-seen clothes. Irina swallowed, suddenly self-conscious for some reason. She couldn't explain it, but part of her was feeling maybe she should have chose a looser dress, a more conservative one. She remembered the bet she made with him. Her initial intention was to tease him, make him sweat, but now she realized how important this date was. This would be their first date as themselves, not as their undercover alias. Oh Lord, Irina was beginning to feel like she was perspiring. Hey beautiful. Irina snapped to attention, realizing Kakashi was in front of her. Something on your mind? Quote. She shook her head, following him to her seat before he helps her to her seat at the table. What did she get herself into? Asuma was getting bored. Sasuke was doing what he thought was Sudoku, and Kirine was reading some romance novel. Sasuke, do you have any regrets for what you've done? The said person looked up, cautious, while Kirine merely sighed, knowing that Asuma was probably bored and trying to kill time by tending to his curiosity. Why is it your concern? Sasuke asks hotly, feeling threatened. Because you are a ninja of Konoha and I am also. Therefore I need to trust you if we are put on missions together. If you have no regrets for your previous actions, then I have no idea what I can say, since the mission to retrieve OU resulted in a serious injury to one my genin, not to mention Naruto's long hospitalization. That caught Sasuke's attention. Why do you care about Naruto? Kirine raised an eyebrow. That's what's bothering you? Among everything he said, Asuma raised his hand, before looking directly at Sasuke. My father always tried to monitor Naruto since his birth because of the hate towards him. When my father died, his death probably hurt Naruto as much as it hurt me, and he didn't have my father's protection anymore. So since then I have taken over to checking up on him. That kid, always optimistic and pianate, was in a critical state when he was brought in with a collapsed lung and broken bones after his battle with you. It was presumed he never needed extensive procedures for anything considering his healing abilities, but that day, it was a 3-hour-long healing session that saved him. Naruto Uzumaki would have died, Sasuke, and I want to know if you care even a little that you were this close to murdering your teammate. Sasuke clenched his fists and spoke in a low voice, trying to keep his temper in check at the same time. At that time, I felt like everyone was against me and becoming stronger, so leaving Konoha and doing what I did made sense at that time. Only after I was beaten to inches of my life did I realize how stupid I was. I was impatient and I was doing the thing my parents would have hated me for. The right way was to become strong in Konoha and fight for Konoha like the Uchihas before me had always done. For that, I am remorseful for not properly thinking things through and disgracing my name the way I did for that stupid moment. Asuma and Kirine looked thoughtful, digesting his words whilst Sasuke hung his head. He felt a weight had been lifted of his shoulders, but still, he hoped to have no more of these heartfelt conversations. He hated expressing himself and he wished he was just alone. This place reeks of testosterone. Quote. Sasuke snorted whilst Asuma looked at his colleague in confusion for the random comment. Mind if I use a candle or something? Both males were looking at her now. Why did you bring a candle here? Quote. What kind of candle? The genin asks, weirdly out of character. Lavender. Sasuke blinks, surprised momentarily before finally agreeing, much to Kurine's bafflement, but before she could ask, he says that it was his mother's favorite. The answer was enough to quiet the Junin. They didn't ask any more questions and Kurine went to find something to light the candle in the hopes that tension in the air would be lifted. She was laughing merrily and Kakashi was chuckling with his fist against his mouth trying to muffle the sound. He looks up at her with his good eye, her kissable glossy lips looking oh so soft and tempting and her cheeks flushing pink as the spring roses in the vase on the stand next to her. With smooth hair, tongued into soft waves that framed her face, her lipstick and mascara were expertly applied, our foundation flawless as she blinked at him with her shimmery eye-shadowed eyelids. Their shared laughter had brought color to their cheeks, but when her eyes meets his, she turns away in an ember gesture, her face reddening to the shade of a crab's shell before purposely focusing her attention onto finishing the wine bottle they ordered. Kakashi coughed and raised his hand to ask for the bill, his urge to flirt with her making him feel greedy and hungry even though he just ate. It was torture for the two. As much as they enjoyed talking about politics, the ninja arts and literature during their dinner, there was this intense underlying tension between them. The need to touch each other. They realized this as they left the restaurant side by side, not touching. Every so often, Kakashi had to keep his hands to himself because the instinct to hold her hand kept edging him forward, but his brain remembering the bet stopped him, whilst for Irina a lot of the times, she wanted to kiss him or hug his arm, she double-talked each time as her instinct took over. It was driving them insane. Remind me, if I touch you before 12 midnight it means date over, right? So you really want it to be? He turns to face her, stopping and really looking at her, trying to find some hint if she was feeling what he was. She met his eyes, her look was unreadable and slowly she moved her long fingers to gently tug down his mask. I don't want it to end, so I'll be touching you first. She kisses him tenderly, her soft hands on his chest and her eyes closed. It was barely a second before Kakashi eagerly responded. He wraps his arms around her tightly, deepening the kiss as he mutters softly, you tease me far too much. You know you love it. She giggles against his mouth, hugging his neck as they continued under the moonlight. Sasuke awoke with the sunlight directly on his face. He was sitting in the armchair with a blanket draped over his body. He opens his eyes fully and looks around, the Junin were gone. He blinks his eyes confused, wondering if Kakashi had came back and sent them on their way already, but then his nose catches a whiff, if he's not mistaken, the smell of waffles coming from the kitchen. He immediately follows the scent to see Asuma setting out plates and Kurine putting down maple syrup next to Kakashi, who was drying his hair with a towel. Morning, Sasuke. The genin nodded, his eyes still on Kakashi, who just set the towel in his lap, his hand heading towards the utensils. Sasuke watched on, intrigued, wondering if today would be the day, but Asuma asks Sasuke to take his seat at the table, taking away his attention, so when Sasuke turns back to Kakashi, the masked Junin with the wet hair had already eaten, his plate empty. Sasuke glares, annoyed, before sitting down, Kakashi smirking away, knowing exactly what he was glaring about. Did you have a nice time last night? Kakashi asks him. Uneventful. What about you? Kurine and Asuma were surprised that Sasuke even bothered to ask and turned to Kakashi to see his answer. Pleasant. Asuma raised an eyebrow. No. Kurine slaps his shoulder, perplexed. Not in front of the genin. I don't really care. Now that caused all the Junin to look at Sasuke in doubt. You're a preteen and you're not the least bit interested. Asuma presses. Even Shikamaru and Choji has at least shown a little interest from my observations. Kirine rolls her eyes. Only you would get so close to your genin to know that. Quote, as just a way to produce. I'll concern myself with that after I take down my brother. Kakashi frowns beneath his mask, wondering how to handle this. Clearly, Sasuke has made up his mind, but on the hand he made sound so mundane, it sounded as if Sasuke did not seem to care at all. Kakashi then remembers something Irina told him once from a book she read. Human beings, fundamentally, are distinctly, spectacularly social. Lonely and isolated, we cannot survive, let alone thrive. For us, power and meaning emerge through making connections. UAL desire, thus, is not chiefly aimed at physical pleasure or the production of children, but at connecting with others. UAL pleasure is fundamentally a social construct, an emergent property of social exchange. Quote, the rest of breakfast continued without further thought-producing conversation topics, while Kakashi mused to himself about the memory he just had. If Sasuke continued being the lone wolf that he is, he would never properly understand or know the pleasures that life had to offer. Kakashi's frown deepened, wondering what could he do about it. And should he? Kakashi needed advice. Sasuke was beyond annoyed. He confronts his guardian in the man's room as he was getting ready for his date. I don't need your stupid friends as babysitters, Kakashi. Kakashi sighs, putting on his gray coat, eyeing the temperamental teen. Look, I told you already that with me and Rina going out more that a Junin will watch over you. Quote, but Asuma and Kirine again. Why not Anbu? They keep their distance and they watch from outside through the windows. I would have to pay them for bodyguard duty. Asuma and Kirine are my friends. They babysit you as a favor to me. I'm a ninja. I don't need a babysitter. Kakashi actually snapped this time, tired of the genin's attitude. No, you're just the egotistical little prick that I got stuck with because your damn arrogance taught it was a good idea to go to an enemy of T. He village for power like some slimy scoundrel. Sasuke closes his mouth in shock. It was the second time ever Kakashi ever raised his voice at him, and seeing his posture, Kakashi didn't bother hiding that he was pissed with him. Direct eye contact, clenched jaw, furrowed brow, and his hands balled into fists. It was unnerving seeing his instructor angry at him. The last time Kakashi was visibly upset with him, it was at the hospital when he woke up and Sasuke had to admit he hated the feeling of being on the other end of Kakashi's anger because it was justified. Kakashi was his instructor and he suffered the most from Sasuke attempting to run away, playing the guardian, losing his primary Junin jurisdiction over the team, and even forced to missions to stay within the village for a certain period of time. In actuality, Kakashi gave him the most attention among the genin, even taught him his prized technique, and Sasuke had used those teachings to almost kill his teammate, Kakashi's other student. Kakashi really had every right to dislike him. Eventually, Sasuke broke the eye contact and Kakashi ignored him, adjusting the cuffs of his coat. The gray-haired man was silent still as he went over to the door. He greeted his fellow Junin politely before leaving, not bothering to give another look to his ward. Mood ruined, and Sasuke did not. Unsure of what he could say or do anyway. Rina hummed as she was finishing up her makeup. Her wards were sitting on her bed watching her with interest. They watched, fascinated as she applied each product from her toner to now her lipstick. She smiled, checking her teeth after using her finger to make sure her lipstick wouldn't ruin her smile. Although her kids were a little grossed out, she used her index finger to put it in and out of her mouth. Why do you do that? Asked Karen. So that I don't smile with red on my teeth, baby girl. The redhead shakes her head. She found makeup interesting, but in all honesty her adopted sister did not need it. Naruto thought so too, but he had other thoughts on his mind. Why Kakashi-sensei? He's a pervert. Rina turned to the blonde, her hands working on her hair, doing up her braid. I know sweetie, but he's not just a pervert. Quote. The special Junin resisted the urge to smirk. After all, she would never admit that she had the same reading habits. The only person who knew was Jiraiya, but only because she forced him to secrecy after signing her favorite book from his collection. She stands up from her vanity table and she smooths out her clothes, moving to stand in front of them, asking her siblings what did they think. The gorgeous woman was dressed in a pastel blue short-sleeved jumpsuit, with a slightly plunging neckline, but she wore a white tube underneath to avoid cleavage view. She wore beige kitten heels. Since she was already Kakashi's height, she didn't need to tower over him with heels. She wore her hair plaited to the side, her bracelet adorned wrist brushing at the strands. Well, before any of them could answer, the doorbell rang. Naruto rushes down almost immediately and Karen follows silently only after urging Rina. She looked stunning. Rina smiles fondly in return before the redhead leaves the room. The former Oto nin eventually reaches the ground floor, grinning almost instantly seeing Jiraiya in the living room and ruffling Naruto's hair. He was in a navy blue samu and sandals. He looked a lot less intimidating like this compared to his usual heavy gear Sanin look and more like a relaxed uncle. He looks up with mirth in his expression at Karen before urging her to come closer. She hurries over and joins the lively embrace, the older man wrapping an arm around her. Rina comes down the stairs then, smiling at the warm sight as she picks up the picnic basket she prepared for her date. The kitchen counter. Alright, since Jiraiya-sama is here, I'm off. Be good children. Quicker than a flash, she kisses each of her ward on the cheek before squeezing the older Kanoho nin's hand tightly in acknowledgement. Thanks again Jiraiya-sama, she says, rushing out the door at the same time, causing the old man to pout. I would have liked a kiss too. The only response he got was her silvery laughter ringing in the night air and the Uzumaki children snickering at the Sanin's put-out expression. What are you reading, Sasuke? Sasuke frowned but answered anyway that it was a mystery novel which only seemed to somehow stir an reluctant conversation with the woman since she herself liked the mystery genre too. It was obvious to Asuma that Sasuke was uncomfortable talking, but Kurine tended to push when it came to breaking people out of their shell. He watches the genin answer her prodding tensely, his body language rigid. He sighs, wondering if Sasuke was always like that. The couple were in a clearing in the forest, lying down and cuddling long after they had eaten. Kakashi's mask was down, his face in Rina's long hair as they conversed. You want me to brainstorm with you on ideas on how to get him to be social? Rina repeated, confused. Yes, Kakashi answers, solemn, his arm wrapped around Rina's middle. What makes you think I can help? My medical degree and training in TI notwithstanding. You have experience dealing with stoic Uchihas, whilst for me, Obito was an enigma who was loud and reckless. She sighs deeply. She should have known he would bring that up. She turns around, facing him as they lie together on the picnic mat. Why the sudden interest in his psyche? I'm no TI had their time with him for a while. Just check out their file so you can see their notes. Considering the severity of the crime, my educated guess is they brought him in for evaluation to make sure they were thorough. Kakashi shakes his head, disagreeing. I want to make the boys socialize, form bonds, and that does not include reading whatever personal information TI dug up in his brain. If he ever found out I violated his privacy like that, he would shut down. Fairly true, although you are his guardian so technically you are privy to the information, but since you insist, I'll try, but only because I want better for the kid. Kakashi kisses her forehead before holding her closer. You still have to apologize for blowing up at him earlier. He had it coming, she hears her boyfriend mutter. Play nice, Kashi. I do, but only with you. Quote. She swats him arm playfully before giggling in his arms, idiot. He kisses her hard on the cheek in response before moving his long fingers to tickle her, causing her to laugh loudly. He loved seeing her smile that wide because she rarely did it and it was only for him. He kisses her on the mouth, shushing her before she wraps her arms around him, her reddened cheeks slowly sobering under the moonlight. Hinata. What? Asuma blinks surprised that Sasuke was suddenly interested in their conversation. What about Hinata? Kurine's eyebrow raised in suspicion, curious. I'm merely discussing with my colleague on my Genin team's progress. Sasuke blinked. He had completely forgotten that the lady in front of him was Hinata's Junin instructor. Oh, and how is your team faring with Mashiro-san? Asuma asks suddenly, forcing the Genin's attention. Sasuke blinked. Do you know her personally? Nope, but I have bumped into her once. She's stunning but a little guarded. Guarded. Kurine repeats, choosing to ignore that her boyfriend just called another woman beautiful. She's a little stoic, but I suppose that's because at that time when I first met her, she had just finished giving a report to my father. I have seen her once or twice at the market too. She was always awfully friendly to the civilians. I guess she's just one of those types that can switch easily between ninja and person. I can imagine her hostile. She's not fond of insubordination, comments Sasuke. Kurine raises her eyebrow again, intrigued. How do you mean? I heard from Naruto that she puts him and his cousin on a strict regimen of exercise, training and studying. She's insistent on it. She doesn't tolerate Sakura's crap either during training. She pushes her until Sakura can barely move. Sounds like a fierce lady, comments Asuma. Do you have any problem with her? Sasuke shakes his head immediately, closing his book and putting down on the table. She's straightforward, logical and fair. She doesn't give her wards any special treatment and she gives praise when due to all of us and chews us out if she feels our attention stray. I feel like I could actually really learn from her. Now, Asuma was interested. This woman that Sasuke was talking about must have had an actual effect on the boy. Sasuke was calm, talkative and seemed almost fond of the woman compared to the time he was talking to Kurine earlier. He had a completely different character. Do you mind that she's dating Kakashi? Sasuke snorts. I don't see what's so attractive about him. Kurine had to laugh. It's been said that Kakashi is secretly really handsome under his mask. She doesn't seem like the type to care on looks. Anyway, Kakashi is always late and reads porn shamelessly in public. She could do a lot better. Kurine shrugs. There is more to a person than meets the eye, Sasuke. It's just how much effort you're willing to put in to see that person inside. Sasuke looked thoughtful and for the rest of the night till Sasuke decided he needed to sleep, the Junin and Sasuke shared stories about Kakashi, learning more about him, and for once Sasuke actually had a pleasant time talking to people he barely knew. Looks like it was becoming a good night for everyone. There was knocking on the front door causing Kurine to frown in confusion and wonder if Kakashi had forgotten his keys. Asuma goes over to open it only to be surprised by who it was, the Hyuga heiress looking up at him in surprise. She asks him what was he doing here, and that's when Kurine makes herself known, moving to Asuma's side. I could be asking you that, young lady, and at 7 a.m. no less. Kurine-sensei. Am I at the wrong house? But I'm sure this is the correct address. Kurine couldn't help it. She laughed at the Genin's confusion. We were house sitting, but Kakashi hasn't come home from his date last night. Hinata blinked. She didn't know Kakashi had a girlfriend. Asuma puts a finger to his lips, asking her not to tell anyone as it was a fairly new thing and Kakashi didn't want any unwanted attention. She nods, doing a zipping motion with her hand against her mouth, and smiled, but she felt a little disappointed. She was hoping to see him. Sasuke emerged from his room with sweat on his skin. He had just finished his morning workout in his room when he stopped suddenly in his tracks. The familiar scent of a fragrant soap had reached his nose. Couldn't be. He tilts his head and sees Kurine and Asuma at the door, seemingly talking to someone shorter than them. It had to be her. No one else can afford this kind of fruity scented soap. He practically runs to the door, almost shoving Kirine to the side. Hinata. The lavender-eyed genin blinks her eyes in surprise, taking in Sasuke's appearance. He seemed so unlike his usual self that she couldn't help but giggle at his bedhair and obvious lack of composure. He was sweating profusely, maybe from exercise or training. He wore only boxers that were deep blue in color. Kirine was intrigued to say the least. Hinata was laughing at a topless and, if she was observing him correctly, an embered Sasuke. What on earth was happening? Sasuke should have been bothered that she was giggling, but she looked so cute in her casual clothing that he couldn't help but stare. She wore slight V-neckline egg blue colored romper with flared lined except sleeves and sewn-on buttons on the front. He could see her legs, thighs and knees. Oh crap, he was pretty sure he just licked his lips. But she looked so cute, his lips and mouth felt dry. She had lip gloss on her lips and she was smiling. Hey Sasuke-kun. Why yeah. Hey. He was sure his face was red. I wanted to talk to you, but if Kakashi-sensei isn't around for me to ask permission, then I'm right here. Hinata Heim. She feels a strong hand on her head then, and she knew it had to be Kakashi because no else touched her that familiarly. Kakashi, you said you'll be late, but we didn't expect you to come home in the morning. Kirine scolds. Ah well, you know me. He grins beneath his mask before moving his hand to squeeze Hinata's shoulder. If you want to speak to Sasuke, you have my permission. Quote. Sasuke stared as Hinata thanked him sincerely before it finally clicked in his head that he needed a shower, and fast. He stammered out he was heading to the bathroom, and with lightning speed, he ran. Asuma resists the urge to laugh, taking Kakashi to his room while Kirine leads Hinata outside to talk. Obviously the couple were very curious and very interested. Kakashi, how could you keep such a juicy secret to yourself? Exclamation mark quote. The said Junin resists the urge to laugh, knowing Asuma would have figured it out. They talked as Kakashi undressed behind his screen, explaining to his friend the bare minimum. Sasuke and Hinata knew each other from young, but he also lied, saying that Sasuke was always awkward around the hair. But he didn't really know why. What do you mean you don't know? It's obvious he has it bad for her. Kakashi, you must have such fun watching him ramble like just now. That kid's expression was priceless when he saw her. Quote. Kakashi shook his head, lying smoothly. Sasuke didn't tell me anything. I figured as much, but he refused to confirm it. He denied it completely. Asuma rolls his eyes. He should have guessed. Stubborn little bastard. Come now, Hinata. Surely you can see that Sasuke clearly likes you. He stumbled over his words even while you were talking. Surely you can see he's a mess around you. Sensei, if you don't mind, I don't believe Sasuke's feelings for me, if he had any, are of your concern. So could you leave it alone and not repeat of it again? Kirine blinked once, then twice, then finally another time before it clicked in her head that her quietest pupil had just told her to off, but in a very polite way. Kirine wondered what was their relationship, but before she could ask, Azuma was at the door telling her they had to leave now. Sasuke hated how stupid he looked at the present moment. He knew he was fidgeting out of nervousness as Hinata sat on the other end of the couch. She was looking at him as he pretended to dry his hair again. It was awkward because Kakashi was in the room. Sasuke wasn't sure what Hinata wanted, but whatever it was, he knew Kakashi was never going to let him live it down. How are you doing, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke blinked, surprised before slowly turning to look at her innocent, inquisitive expression. I'm doing all right. You like living with Kakashi then? The reply came out quick. No awkwardness there. No, he's an idiot. Quote. Kakashi rolled his good eye and watched as Hinata shook her head. You know he's in the room, Sasuke-kun. That was mean of you. Like I care. Well, you should if you want to keep that marriage contract of ours intact. Quote. The males in the room froze, shocked. Sasuke clearly said Hinata didn't know and wasn't supposed to know till she was 18, so why was she mentioning it now of all times? What do you know about the contract? Sasuke asks slowly, trying to understand the situation. I know the contact agreement was between our fathers and I know your fingerprint in blood is on it, acknowledging it personally as an interested candidate. Quote, Hinata's quiet, serious tone was enough to tell the Uchiha that she was upset. Are you mad at being betrothed without your consent? Or are you mad that's it's with me? Hinata's head turned so fast at his question that Kakashi was surprised she didn't get whiplash. She looked shocked but saddened at his words. I'm disappointed that you actually think I'm upset about having to marry you, Sasuke. The said boy blinked, realizing she didn't use suffix. He turned and met her eyes, realizing then for the first time that Hinata wasn't the same painfully shy girl he met when they were toddlers. She sighs suddenly, rubbing her temples. In all honesty, I guessed you and your brother were likely candidates for me to marry anyway. You being the most likely. Now, Sasuke was really puzzled. What do you mean you guessed? Quote, Hinata blushed, embered before explaining, I meant that I figured out a long time ago that my father will marry me off once I was of age since my Jukin was not as proficient as the other main family members. The Hyuga family wanted me out so I wouldn't shame them, but because I was the heiress, it only made sense that I marry someone of status. Among the rest of the clans, the Uchiha clan was the only clan I knew that had a son that fit the bill. Quote, Kakashi raised his visible eyebrow, impressed that she made such theories at a young age. Would you have preferred Itachi? Kakashi watched from his corner of the room as Hinata shakes her head before moving her hand to hold his in hers while Sasuke tried his best to stay calm. Sasuke-kun, Itachi is gone now and out of our lives. I'll be frank, years ago I rationalized then that either one of you I would be okay with as a fiancé because we were all friends back then. But here right now, I am glad I know I can count on you to be here for me as my future husband. Quote, Hinata smiled at Sasuke and Kakashi swore that his ward's face turned as red as a tomato. He did his best not to laugh and watched as Hinata inched closer and Sasuke covered his mouth with his hand, trying to will his obvious blush away. But I need to tell you the reason I'm here. Sasuke blinked before moving both his hands to take hers in his, looking at her in the eyes. He could tell that she needed his full attention. Kakashi listened as Hinata explained that Sasuke was in risk of losing his engagement to her if he did not agree to coming to dinner at her home this weekend. Hiyashi wanted to see him, test him maybe to see if he was still a worthy suitor for her and whether he was loyal to Konoha. Kakashi was unsurprised really. He should have expected this kind of challenge. He heard rumors that Hiyashi was one of few clan members of the council that had insisted on a more severe punishment for the boy's previous transgression. Hinata pointed out to Sasuke that the only way to show that he was serious about their engagement was to show that he was mature and he had reliable support in his future upbringing. Into a man. Sasuke blanched at her words before pointing out he was a man, but Hinata stops him from saying any further, telling him to remember only one ego is allowed in that house and that was her father. Sasuke said nothing, unsure of what else he could say, so Hinata decided that was a good time to take her leave. She wished him the best of luck before Kakashi led her on her way out. Sasuke needed his time to think. It was lunchtime when Sasuke finally got up from the couch. Kakashi looks up from his Ika, looking at him carefully. Do you know where your girlfriend lives? Kakashi frowns underneath his mask, wondering what brought that on. We're not at that stage yet. Quote, I don't care. What I want to know is, do you know where she lives? The Junin frowns even deeper. Why do you want to know? She's the only one that can help me, so where does she live? He knew that tone. Sasuke wasn't going to take no for an answer. The last time he left this boy unchecked, he left the village. He sighed deeply, praying Rina would still him after whatever shitstorm Sasuke was going to put them through. Fine, we'll go. Karen heard the doorbell, so she told her family she would answer. She gets out from the pool, drying herself off as much as she could. Once she was satisfied she wasn't dripping any more water, she wraps what her Onisama called a pareo around her lower half and puts on her glees. She goes over to the door and stands on her tiptoes to see who was there. Onisama, it's Kakashi and Sasuke. Can I open the door? It was Naruto who answered, shouting back that Rina was in the water so she couldn't hear. He tells her it should be okay, so go ahead. Karen frowns. She wanted to be sure, but since it was members of her team it should be okay, right? With a deep breath, she opens the door to an annoyed Sasuke and a tired Kakashi. But almost immediately, Karen's swimsuit drew in all their attention. Kane had on a long-cut multicolored tie-dye bralette and bikini bottoms with a white wrap of sorts around her waist. Sasuke raised an eyebrow after fully digesting that Karen was in a multicolored outfit, considering she AYS wore solid colors. Did you come home from the beach? No, we have a pool. Now what are you doing here and how did you find this place? Rina gave me the address for emergencies only, but Sasuke here was insistent on seeing her now, answers Kakashi, gesturing to his hot-tempered ward. See Ne-chan for what? Sasuke tilted his head, seeing Naruto, who was the one that spoke, moving to Karen's side wearing orange swimming trunks. Is she swimming out there? Yes, but Sasuke rudely cuts off the blonde as he pushes his way through the cousins, making his way into their me and out of the patio only to gawk at the lush green trees surrounding the enormous swimming pool. He hears water splashing and looks up, getting a grand eyeful of his team sensei's body in a swimsuit. Kakashi was in the kitchen, but then he sees Rina at the pool out of the window and dropped the scone he was about to eat on the counter. The man's good eye practically bulged out of his socket. As she emerges from the water, his eye couldn't help but drink in the sight of her, dripping wet, head to toe. Her sopping mane sticks to her, water droplets racing down inch after flawless inch of skin, dripping from her curves. Her monokini, soaked to the fibers, stuck against that amazing body like a wet paper towel, all disoriented and riding up on her after whatever fun-filled, wet pool aims she was playing with her wards. God Almighty in heaven, why did she have to wear white? Rina was wearing a bold white one-piece swimsuit with a plunging neckline and a crisscross front tie just below that amazing bust of hers. She was stunning, no doubt, but Kakashi somehow pushed his naughty thoughts of acting out to the side, but instead lifted his headband to reveal his Sharingan flaring, committing the image to memory for later use. The tall sun-kissed toned woman stood before Sasuke, wringing out the water in her long mint green hair. Rina opens her eyes eventually and finally notices Sasuke, who was completely red in the face. She lets out a small, "Oh," in genuine surprise before crouching down to his eye level to speak to Hey you, what are you doing here? Despite himself, the genin couldn't help but let his eyes wander down to her buxom, her swimsuit doing nothing to hide her womanly curves. Sasuke's onyx eyes takes in the sight of her. He had to admit her body was spectacular, muscled yet feminine. Droplets of water clung to her clear tanned skin, glistening in the afternoon sun. Due to how she was crouching down, her ample S pressed upward by her arms on her knees, only accentuating their size and reminding him of how soft her SK looked, leaving him wondering if her S felt as soft. Just as he was about to tear his eyes away, she looked back at him, a glimmer of curiosity shining in her amethyst eyes. You okay there? She asks him softly. Naruto and Karen watched from the patio door as Rina suddenly stands up, pressing Naruto's towel against his nose before ushering him toward them. Naru, the med kit now. Karen stared as a red-faced Sasuke ped her, a towel pressed against his bleeding nose. Confusion as how did Sasuke get high when she never laid a finger on him? Weird. Naruto and Karen watched with interest as their big sister tended to Sasuke. She had pulled on one of her swimsuit cover-ups, tying it tightly around her toned waist, covering herself up completely after drying off properly. It was sheer lightweight chiffon with a bell-shaped long sleeves and a hemline that draped down to the ankles. They were all sitting on stools in the kitchen, Sasuke looking absolutely defeated as Mashiro-sensei tended to his bleeding nose. She used a cotton swab to ever so gently dab petroleum jelly gently to the inside of his nose, telling him it's a precautionary measure to lessen risks of rebleeding, with Kakashi at her side, watching intently. There. That should do it. So if any rebleeding occurs, you have to blow out your nose forcefully to clear your nose of blood clots, you hear me? Yeah. Don't pick or blow your nose, and don't bend down at least until dinner time, and please keep your head higher than the level of your heart. As she says this, she uses her hand and lifts his head up by the chin, and he flushes slightly. I feel like an idiot. Naruto scoffed. Yeah, you had a nosebleed because you can't handle how pretty Arne-chan is. Quote. Sasuke picks up the nearest item he could grab, which was a salt shaker, and chucks it at Naruto's direction, but the blonde catches it and yells at him for being and causing his guardian to take action. Naruto. Karen, both of you upstairs, showers now. But. Upstairs. Naruto pouted, and Karen reluctantly takes his hand, guiding him out of the kitchen and towards the staircase, leaving Rina alone with Kakashi and Sasuke. Okay. Since that's settled, let's move on to why are you both here? What kind of emergency is this? Kakashi rubs the back of his head. It's not really an emergency. Sasuke's eyes flashed, his anger evident. It is too an emergency. This is my life, you whole. This engagement is everything to me. Rina blinks her eyes slowly, her eyelashes fluttering until it finally clicks in her head what Sasuke was talking about. You're talking about your engagement to Hinata-chan. Quote. Sasuke's eyes widened. How? Hinata's mother was my sensei. One of Tsunade-sama's very few pupils. I am the last of her genin team, and she named me Hinata-chan's godmother at the time of the child's birth. Quote. Sasuke groaned loudly. He thought his head was going to explode. You never told me that, Kakashi says suddenly, looking at the special Junin. I keep many secrets, you know that, Cyclops, she answers easily, winking at him playfully. Sasuke was so confused, but I never saw you at the house before. Hiashi did not like me being around the estate. He hated that I was her godmother because I bested him in a public tournament at one point. Quote. You kicked Hiashi Hyuga's. Rina smiled at the genuine awe on the boy's face. Yes, I did. I am a woman of many talents. Clearly. Kakashi grinned underneath his mask, seeing how much Rina was enjoying Sasuke's recognition of her prowess. Now, how can I help you, my precious genin? Sasuke took a deep breath, praying she would agree. I have a plan. Kakashi opened the door and was greeted by the cheerful Naruto with his much quieter cousin by his side. He let them in after they had explained that Rina had sent them to help them prepare. Kakashi was a little confused by what he needed help with, since he found himself a pretty decent dresser until Karen held out a big purple bag out to him. Curious, Kakashi takes the bag from her hand and pulls out one of the clothing items. It was a gray blazer, which was a color he did not own, and it was exceptional quality fabric. He searched through the bag to find trousers of the same material and a thin navy-colored shirt. The outfit entirely was mostly formal due to the fabric choice and excellent cutting, but it was clear the shirt was going to make the outfit a comfortable one. It was a relaxed formal look which was perfect for Kakashi. She knows me so well. Sasuke puts on his boxers quickly, hearing the doorbell, but he couldn't help but smirk in accomplishment for getting the plan into gear. After hearing his plan, Rina was more than happy to help but insisted her wards had to come along to show strength in numbers. Sasuke's plan was simple. Rina had to come with Kakashi to show that he, in a way, had parent figures in his life that would keep him in line, but most importantly guide him on a respectable journey to his goals. It was perfect. Kakashi was known for his exceptional ninja career in Anbu and ninja talents among the locals. While Rina was known to be the latest useful addition to Konoha General Hospital in her kind, warm personality amongst the people mainly due to her more recent presence in the community as of late. As a front, they were exceptional role models for Sasuke to follow. Sasuke would call the plan a sure success if Rina did not insist on bringing her siblings along. He was just thinking along these lines when Naruto suddenly barged in, exclaiming that Rina sent him here to help the Uchiha. Sasuke turned. He had just come from the shower, and he was trying to dry his hair. He was only in his boxers for now, but he didn't care anyway. It was only Naruto, but then he realized that Naruto was dressed formally and took a moment to look at him properly. Naruto was wearing a snug black vest that was long enough for the sides to reach his waistline over a well-fitted white shirt and dark wash slim-fit jeans. The shirt's collar and the last button of his vest were left unbuttoned, opting to look a little more casual than formal, but Sasuke had to add, "MIT, that Naruto looked great. Your sister must have dressed you." Naruto ignored the snide comment and raised the bag he was carrying. "I'm here to dress you, Sasuke." Sasuke walked backwards cautiously. He did not like the glint in his teammates' eyes. Kakashi was the first to finish, and when he came out fully dressed in the outfit prepared for him, he noticed Karen wasn't paying him any attention. She seemed nervous and was twiddling her thumbs as she sat on the couch. Kakashi had to admit, he didn't recognize her at first. She had put on some light makeup, a lip gloss, mascara and face powder. He liked that she kept it natural. She was still a kid after all. She was wearing a black bare-shoulder midi dress with a purplish ombre finish at the bottom. Most importantly, her usually short red hair was up in a low bun, so for the first time he could see her whole face, and he realized that he was right when first saw her. She did look like Kushina. Kakashi. Look at Sasuke. Dobi. Kakashi's jaw dropped beneath his mask. Sasuke was wearing a navy blue button-down dress shirt with the sleeves all the way rolled up to his elbows with the collar buttoned, making him look almost dignified. He had on mauve-tone trousers with a plaid pattern that was only noticeable if you look hard enough, with a brown belt around the waist of his pants and a black leather wristwatch on his wrist. It fitted him perfectly, and dare did Kakashi admit it with a nervous Sasuke under his gaze. Sasuke looked pretty handsome. He never liked Sasuke's arrogance, it made him unattractive. Still, today seeing Sasuke trying his absolute best to win over the father of the girl he loves, Sasuke seemed more human and thus more agreeable. Kakashi reaches out a hand about to ruffle the kid's hair, but Naruto grabbed his wrist, stopping him. "Do not touch the hair." Kakashi blinked his visible eye, confused, until Naruto explained further. "This hair has a mind of its own. I couldn't style the damn thing. It wouldn't tame by gel or hairspray or anything. It was a nightmare." Quote. Sasuke snorted, and Kakashi chuckled. His hair was the same. Good thing Naruto stopped him, or his hand would be a mess of liquids. The doorbell rang, and Karen immediately got up from the couch to answer it. "Oni-sama." The familiar laughter of their sensei rang out as Karen hugged her adopted sister. Rina gently instructed Karen not to press her face onto the skirt of her new dress. The little redhead obliged but couldn't help but smile at how pretty her sister looked. Rina was wearing a full face of well-blended makeup. Expertly applied eyeshadow in gradient shades of browns finished off with gold shimmer. It reminded Karen of how almond-shaped Rina's eyes were, especially so with the winged eyeliner, and the deep magenta lipstick made her lips look more plump and fuller than usual. "Karen, you're still holding on, dear. I know you're nervous about this dinner, but I need to greet the boys." The redhead blushed hard before finally releasing her guardian. Rina pats her shoulder before moving forward to where the boys were standing and were staring at her. The special Junin wore a lilac dress with wrapped design around the torso and abstract prints all over. It was modest but fashionable, and Naruto couldn't resist hugging her. This time Rina let the child rub his cheeks on her dress since he wasn't wearing makeup like Karen, but after a minute, he gently nudged him off before taking a good look at Kakashi and his ward. Don't you two look dashing? Kakashi grinned under his mask before moving closer to her and moving his fingers on her waist. You look better. As always, she smirked, and Kakashi couldn't help but notice the expertly braided top knot. He moved his hands to touch it, and Rina scowled and smacked his hand, telling him not to mess up her hard work. He watches as she removes something from her bag and his eye visibly widens when he recognized the item. It was the gray scarf that Rina had worked on as a pretend hobby during their undercover job in Kumo. I didn't know you finished it. And I didn't know we would be together again, but here we are. Kakashi smiled at her under his mask as she placed the scarf around his neck. He wanted to kiss her badly, but the kids were around. He relented to picking up her hands and holding them in his as. He looked into her beautiful eyes. I love you. Neji Hyuga opened the door to their new guests and blinked his eyes rapidly. He barely recognized the group. They looked so well dressed he thought for a minute that fashion models had come to the house by mistake. Please come in. Naruto fed him a box of dango which Neji appreciated and accepted graciously. The older genin told Naruto he looked rather handsome, which made the blonde blush shyly as he replied an embered thank you, causing, in turn, Neji to smile because he could tell that Naruto seemed happier. He was still really smiley and bright, but this seemed more genuine than he had ever seen, and even better, his volume was much subdued. Naruto presently showed to be more aware of his position and displayed proper manners. Naruto was growing, and Neji looked forward to seeing the blonde's progress. He guided them to the dining hall where the Hyuga main family was waiting, dressed in the traditional kimono. Hiyashi stood first and went over to greet them. Irina, Kakashi, Hiyashi-sama, thank you for inviting us into your lovely home. It is a great honor. As the adults exchange pleasantries, Naruto tilts his head to look at Hinata. He waved his hand wildly until he got her attention. The heiress resists the urge to laugh and waved back, causing the blonde to grin. Karen elbows her cousin to behave since Sasuke was glaring at him hatefully. Come, we can talk more at the table while we eat. Quote, dinner was going well in Sasuke's opinion. The adults talked amicably even though the supposed dislike Hiyashi had for Mitsukai, they seemed to be having a good conversation. Kakashi was reasonably active in participating in their discussion too. For the genin side, Naruto and Karen talked about their new home and lifestyle with their new guardian. Hanabi expressed interest in seeing their lavish house, but Karen apologized saying it was in a restricted location. Sasuke frowned. What are you saying? Your house is just. Karen slammed her hand over the boy's mouth, shutting him up. Excuse him, please. This reaction caught Neji's interest. You've been to their home. Quote, only once. Is it as awesome as they say? Hanabi presses. They have a pool. Hanabi's eyes practically glittered. Can I come please? Naruto laughed nervously. Sorry, Nei-chan is strict about whom we bring to the house. That time when Sasuke came was sort of an emergency. Emergency? Asks Hinata, looking concerned, which made Sasuke melt a little on the inside that she cared about him. Karen swallows her food before answering, yeah, he was nearby, and he had a nosebleed. Quote, Sasuke froze, his emberment creeping onto his features. Training accident? Neji asked. Sasuke shakes his head, feeling flushed. I hope you didn't have any more of that, Hinata wonders aloud, looking at him. Sasuke lifts his head a little, mumbling that it wasn't that bad, causing Karen to scoff. Your blood soaked half of Naruto's face towel, Sasuke. Yikes. Commented Hanabi, did you fall or something? Quote, no. It was not a big deal. Mitsukai treated it quickly and gave me petroleum jelly and stuff. Hinata nodded her head, thoughtful. She had nosebleeds before, so she knew how to treat them. I'm glad you're okay, Sasuke-kun. Quote, Sasuke couldn't help but smile a little as he met eyes with her, thanks Hina. Naruto and Karen stared at Sasuke when he insisted this dinner was necessary, he meant it. The Uchiha was smiling at the heiress, even Neji and Hanabi were stunned by the honest smile. Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde turns to see it was Hiashi addressing him. Naruto answers respectfully while Rina and Kakashi watched warily. I heard you are undergoing training from Jiraiya-sama. Naruto nodded. Are you going to learn to seal and the sage arts from him as well? Rina raised her eyebrow confused why Hiashi was interested. Still, she shouldn't be too surprised. Hiashi was one of the very few council members that proposed against killing Naruto when he was a babe after the Kyuubi sealing. He was one of the few people in the village that was somehow empathetic towards the boy. I want to master wind ninjutsu and kenjutsu first. I haven't pondered much about sealing because it seems super complicated, but sage arts seem pretty interesting. Still, Jiraiya-sama is insistent I learn the sage arts and sealing when I'm older once I gain the speed and agility I require first. Karen couldn't help but beam at how eloquently Naruto expressed himself. It was clear that his language arts studies were progressing well. Hiashi was impressed and raised a GL to Rina. You're good for him, Irina. Thank you, Hiashi-sama, I try. Kakashi smiled as they clinked glees before reaching behind Sasuke, ruffling Naruto's hair affectionately. Now Sasuke, how have you been since you tried to betray the village? Finally, the moment Sasuke was waiting for, he knew Hiashi would bring up this topic. Sasuke gathered up his courage and faced the Hyuga head while everyone at the table stopped eating to watch. My intention wasn't to betray the village. You just wanted power because you lack the patience to work hard like any other respectable ninja. I did not say that. But that's what you're implying, are you not? Did Kakashi not teach you how to use your Sharingan? Did he not teach you his original technique, the Chidori? Were his teachings so inadequate? Itachi stopped the Chidori like it was nothing, and Kakashi wasn't teaching me anything more powerful than that. I was just getting desperate. Have you ever considered that killing Itachi is just impossible? The dark-eyed genin gritted his teeth. Itachi is still a man. No human is invincible. But ninjas can be strong, and Itachi was the strongest there was in this village. He was the superior of Kakashi and Irina here, you know. Sasuke said nothing, despite discovering that Irina was just confirmed to be in Anbu with Kakashi. You know, initially I wanted Itachi as my future son-in-law, but Fugaku was reluctant. He was insistent that Itachi should be married within the family as he did, or at least to marry a strong kunoichi, but then you showed up, insisting that you would be the best suitor for my firstborn. Sasuke lowered his head, flushed. Tell me, do you still believe that? Sasuke felt tongue-tied. He didn't know what he could say to appease Hiashi, but then he feels Naruto hold his hand firmly. He turns to look at his teammate, and for the first time, he realized what a steely blue his eyes were. Suddenly, he feels a warmth coming through him. He looks down and sees Naruto's hand glowing, and he feels his chakra, Naruto's empathy and confidence flowing through like a wave. It was revitalizing. With renewed energy, he takes a deep breath and faces the man. Hinata is kind, honest, brave, sweet and caring. She deserves the world. She deserves someone who could love her and protect her always. That was what I was trying to be. I chased for power so that I could be the strong man she deserves, because almost every night since my clan died, I had nightmares that Itachi would get her too if I didn't do anything to stop him. I was foolish. I admit that. I was selfish. A lot of people got hurt because of me, and I want to change. I want to become a powerful ninja and do it under the tutelage of both my sensei. I want to be the man they can be proud of, Hinata can be proud of, you can be proud of, and my parents would have been proud of too. I'll do the work. I'll be patient. I'll try my best to be attentive. I promise, Hiashi-sama, I am trying to be the best man I can be for your daughter because that's how important she is to me. I loved her for the longest time and still do. I've watched her, and I can see that she's grown out of her shell and opens up more to other people. I am so happy to see her smile like how she does today, and I want to be one of the reasons that make her smile too one day as her husband, but only if why. Oh, you let me. Please, Hiyashi-sama. Please give me this chance to show you I can be a man worthy of your daughter. Quote. Hinata was tomato red, and Neji patted her back comfortingly. Hanabi blew into a tissue, crying. Karen and Rina were holding back tears to avoid ruining their makeup. Kakashi and Naruto meanwhile held Sasuke's hands firmly for support, waiting to hear Hiyashi speak again. Sasuke Uchiha, I knew the moment you and Hinata met that you fell for her instantly. You blush and stammer around her all the time, even though around others, you spoke well. Admittedly, I found it highly amusing. Kakashi resisted the urge to laugh somehow and managed to keep a straight face as Hiyashi continued. I knew Itachi was fond of Hinata but not as much as you, so when I proposed the engagement to him initially, he refused because in his words, and I quote, Sasuke's heart would break if I took Hina away from him. Quote. The said Uchiha kept his mouth closed, he was still waiting. The engagement will continue, but if you ever do something as stupid as you had previously done, I will not allow you anywhere near my children again. Am I clear? Sasuke let out a breath of relief. Crystal. Perfect. Now let's have dessert. Sasuke-kun, a word please. The said genin had just stepped out of the estate when Hinata appears at the doorway. Kakashi, seeing this, came toward his ward, putting a hand on his shoulder. How about you two go to the garden? It'll give you some privacy. Sasuke sighed, but you're still going to be lurking, Kakashi, since you have to make sure I don't leave your field of vision. Quote. That's why I said some privacy, Sasuke. The rest will wait here, but don't take too long. The Uchiha sighed, and Hinata smiled softly in understanding before taking him by the hand as they walked together to the Hyuga compound's garden. The Uzumaki family waved at them as they went whilst Rina winked, mouthing good luck, causing Sasuke to blush. When the two finally reached the garden, Hinata led him towards the giant tree where the swing set was. They used to play there all the time. Sasuke blushes hard as Hinata leans back against the tree, his hands in hers as she looked at him. She was so close to him, it made his cheeks warm. Hina d don't. Your kimono will get dirty. The dinner party is over, it doesn't matter anyway. Sasuke felt his heart pound hard in his chest, looking into her eyes. Hyugas have pupilless eyes, yet he always felt something when he looked into Hinata's eyes. The Uchiha's face reddened, so he comes closer and wraps his arms around Hinata's waist tightly, his face over her shoulder, causing Hinata to smile at the surprise hug. She hugged him back, concluding that Sasuke was too cute when it came to her. Mashiro. Rina turned to see Hiyashi walking toward her, his expression stern. She sighed deeply, she knew this night went a little too well. Hiyashi-sama. Drop the formalities, child. I'm here to discuss something of a sensitive nature. Quote. That no-nonsense look on his face was enough for Rina to wordlessly nudge her wards forward to wait for her at Hyuga Properties gates. The special Junin stood tall, looking carefully at the Hyuga head. What do you want, senpai? Quote. My oldest daughter has been asking too many questions about you lately. We need to put your gifting to a halt. Rina tilted her head. Come now, senpai, you allowed me to gift the girls presents on their birthdays, and one of the rules was to allow you to check them first. You said the last gifts I gave them fine. Yes, but I never imagined Hinata to become so relentless. Now even my youngest has ganged up on me, and it is your fault. The tanned woman in front of him scowled as she crossed her arms. It's not my fault your children are tired of you keeping me a say. Credit from them. They deserve to know their family. You are not their family. You are just a godparent. You. Rina closes the distance between them, her voice dropping dangerously low, delivered Hinata, you ungrateful bastard. Quote. Hiyashi's flashed, his volume entirely the opposite, how dare you. You brat. You want me to kick your again. And in front of your clansmen. Naruto, who was watching from afar with the others, perked up when he heard Hiyashi's raised voice. The boy's eyes practically twinkled. He would love to see this fight. Did you mean what you said back there? Sasuke nodded, his arms above her head, resting onto the tree as she left her hands on his chest. She appreciated that Sasuke seemed much calmer after their embrace. I think your father would have my head if I said anything insincere. She lets out a small giggle. Fair enough. Hinata smiled, her fingers brushing against his cheeks. Who knew the stoic Uchiha could be so pianate? Quote. Sasuke flushed. You're worth it. Hinata blushes at his words before shyly lifting her head, closing her eyes and tenderly pressing her lips against his, surprising the Uchiha. The kiss obliterated every thought. For the first time in forever, the present time fixed onto Sasuke's mind. The worries of the past evaporated like a summer heatwave onto a pool of water. Sasuke had no wish for the kiss to end. Drunk on endorphins, his only desire was to touch her, to move his hands under her smooth kimono layers and feel her perfect softness. In moments, the soft caress has become more firm. He savored her lips and the quickening of her breath that matched his own. A kiss like this was a beginning, a promise of much more to come. Leave Tenchi Oni-chan alone. Hiyashi turned to see a cross-looking Hanabi and his nephew standing hesitantly before him. Hinata Oni-sama asked for a meeting with Tenchi Oni-chan, not for you to fight with her. Quote. Rina blinked, clearly confused. Hanabi-chan, when did you figure it out? Hanabi came forward, explaining that Hinata was the one to figure it out. She had recognized Rina from what their mother described her in her journal after she first saw her at the hospital on the day of Naruto's Diska. RGE. Later, when Hinata saw Rina signing the discharge paperwork, she recognized the handwriting instantly as the handwriting of their mysterious godmother Tenchi that always left birthday presents and cards for them. Rina couldn't help but feel proud of Hinata. As the girl got more involved with Kurine and her teammates, Hinata bit by bit was breaking out of her shell and expressed more of her talents as she gained more confidence. Indeed, Rina was very happy for the heiress. Tenchi Oni-chan, why have you kept a secret from us, to begin with? Rina smirked, turning to Hiyashi. You want to tell her or should I? The Hyuga head glared. Leave Mashiro, or you are never welcome into my property again. Quote. Before she could respond, Hinata seemingly appeared out of nowhere with Sasuke in tow and Kakashi walking not too far behind, looking very confused by the tension. Before Hinata could ask, Hiyashi gives the order to Neji to take his cousins away. Neji's eyes lowered but nodded as he came forward, taking his cousin, Hanabi, by the wrist. Hinata turns to Sasuke, mouthing sorry, and turns to open the sliding door, about to go in, but Sasuke tilts her head and gives her a chaste kiss on the mouth, causing Hinata to blush in turn. She pouts a little at him, causing Sasuke to smile until Neji comes up behind, obviously wanting to obey the order he was given and take his cousins inside. Sasuke gives his fiancée a wave before leaving and headed towards his teammates. Rina kept her face expressionless throughout. Hiyashi made a small grunt before leaving towards the house, not even bothering to wish her farewell or even goodnight. Regardless, Rina gave a slight bow to Hiyashi's retreating before turning on her heel and leaving. She could feel the rage boiling inside of her, and damn did she hate it. Kakashi made a quick jog to Rina and takes her hand in his. She says nothing and grips it firmly as she walks toward the Uzumaki cousins who were waiting for her at the front gates. Naruto and Karen watched, noting their guardian's stony expression, but were shocked to watch Sasuke following Kakashi's example and holding her hand too. It was enough of a surprise for both adults to look at Sasuke in wonder. Sasuke said nothing with his eyes lowered to the ground, his grip strong onto Rina's hand. Karen couldn't help but smirk. Looks like Sasuke wasn't a complete, utterly unfeeling bastard. Once they were closer to the market area on their way home, Kakashi offered to buy ice cream. The Uzumaki family enthusiastically agreed while Sasuke merely shrugged, but Kakashi was in a good mood, so he took the shrug as a yes. After asking all of them what they wanted, he went forward to the ice cream stall. Kakashi-kun, it's been a while since I last saw you. How are you doing? The ice cream seller was a nice man with friendly eyes. Minato-sensei used to take them to this stall to buy ice cream for them. It would be the first time Kakashi was at the booth with his team physically present. He ordered 1 strawberry for Karen, 2 chocolate for Sasuke and himself, 1 cookies and cream for Naruto and 1 mint chocolate chip for Rina. He requested precisely word for word, mentioning the group's names, not realizing that there was a glint in the seller's eyes when he said Naruto's. He waited patiently as the ice cream man scooped up the ice cream, eyeing his ward talking with the Uzumaki cousins with Rina watching them too with a gentle expression. She would make a fantastic mother one day. Here you go Kakashi-kun. Kakashi smiled and moved to pick up the tray that held the cones, but as soon as he lifted it, he felt something was off about the weight. The ice cream man watched worried, as Kakashi put down the tray to pick up the single cookies and cream cone, and the man's single eye narrowed at him. Why is this so heavy? What did you put in it? Quote, just big chunks of the cookies Kakashi-kun. Nothing to worry about. The older man flinched when Kakashi leaked out his killer intent, just a little, not enough for his teammates to sense it but enough for the ice cream man to feel it. Wordlessly, Kakashi took the whole scoop of ice cream in his hand, his expression unchanging even with the cold temperature. The weight was too heavy. He crushed it in his hand, deadpanned under his mask when he realized he felt something tangible in the scoop in his hand. When he opened his fist, his eye widened in shock. Rocks. The ice cream man closed his eyes, knowing the Junin was probably going to hurt him. He opened his eyes again, Kakashi whispering harshly, obviously trying to control his anger so that the group wouldn't hear. How dare you? How could you put rocks in a child's ice cream? What do you have against Naruto? The elderly man scowled. That runt is a demon. He has the Kyuubi inside him, and he even took our Yondaime's looks to laugh at us. Quote, Kakashi couldn't believe what he was hearing. He knew the villagers hated Naruto for being a Jinchuriki, but this. Kakashi could practically hear Minato-sensei rolling in his grave at this moment. You know what? You Naruto-san. Kakashi took the tissue from the tissue dispenser, cleaning his hand, leaving the ice cream with the man as he went back to the group who looked at him strangely. Kashi, where's the ice cream? Rina asked, looking at him, concerned at his stiff posture. They didn't have the flavors we wanted, sorry about that. Karen pouted while the rest looked at Kakashi suspiciously, knowing if that were the case, Kakashi wouldn't have taken so long at the stall at all. Let's just go, kids. The male Junin urged Sasuke forward and ruffled Naruto's hair affectionately as he walked behind the 14-year-olds with Rina next to him, quickly figuring out what happened and watched Kakashi looking at Naruto. Rina leaned her head toward her lover so that her lips were close to his ear. I'm guessing he was hateful towards our blonde. Kakashi nodded numbly, not sure what he could say. He knew the villagers were unkind to Naruto, but this extent, he didn't know what to think. He silently vowed he would speak to the Hokage about this as soon as he could. Mizukai-sensei, thank you for coming with me today, and thank you for looking out for Hinata the way you have over the years. Hina told me a little about the gifts she received from you. Thank you. Rina almost tripped over her own feet in surprise, but Kakashi keeps her steady. She blinks her eyelashes, truly bewildered by Sasuke's words. He merely looks back at Rina with a blank expression on his face but with sincerity in his eyes. You called me Mizukai and sensei. Sasuke nods, saying nothing else and walking forward with everyone else staring after him. Guess he wasn't just all talk about doing better after all. Sasuke was bored. He was lying back against the tree, waiting for his teammate to arrive. Tonight was the night of the party, but he was barely excited. He still didn't understand the point of it. He looked down at his clothes, feeling stupid in them. They were his teacher's hand-me-downs, but they were the quality fabric acceptable for the supposed big party. He was in a long-sleeved blue shirt, jeans, and sneakers paired with a dark jacket tied around his waist. Kakashi sat next to him, yawned beneath his mask, just as bored as he was. The Junin wore a fitted long-sleeved black shirt and dark gray jeans with black boots. He never noticed how well built his teacher was until he first saw him in the shirt. Sasuke didn't realize how much the standard uniform hid the wearer's physique until now, especially when he barely saw the man in anything form-fitting or bare-chested, for that matter. He turned his attention to his watch, noting the time. Where was she? I'm here. He turned and saw Sakura rushing toward them, waving her hand dramatically. She had a sleeveless beige top, a dusty pink skirt and red platforms. Sasuke's nose wrinkled as she came closer, the strong scent of rose perfume wafted over. He observed that she had put on makeup and many accessories, including earrings and a sling purse on her arm. What do you think, Sasuke-kun? She gave him a little twirl. Sasuke shrugs, uncaring before moving to get up from the ground. Let's just get this over with already. Sakura pouts, unsatisfied with his lack of reaction but followed after him anyway as they continued down the hill with Kakashi C. Lose behind. Karen felt extremely embered in the new outfit her adoptive sister had gifted her. She shyly turned and posed, looking at it from all sides in her red cross-strapped structural heels. It was a pretty floral red top and skirt set with ruffle detail on the dress's bottom hem, showing off her navel and thighs. It wasn't distastefully revealing, surprisingly. It felt girly and sweet. Even more shocking, Karen liked it. She turned to the side when she heard a frustrated yell from Naruto, looking casual in his orange t-shirt and black jeans finished with sneakers on his feet. He was glaring at his closet, trying to decide whether to wear a jacket or not. Karen, get over here so I can finish your makeup. Karen made a tiny squeak in surprise at her loud voice but rushed regardless to Rina's room. The vanity table was littered with all of her makeup. The adoptive guardian beams as Karen takes her seat. Naruto watches from the doorway, curious as usual. He found this whole makeup thing taxing, but it was fun to watch. The doorbell rings suddenly, and it didn't have to chime a second time for Naruto to rush downstairs. He checks the peephole and sees Sasuke and Kakashi there, opening the door. Yo, HN, was the response from his teammate as he entered the room with Kakashi in tow. So, is Sakura waiting for us at the restaurant? Quote, Kakashi shakes his head, patting Naruto on the head, explaining that they left Sakura on the outskirts of the estate because he had a warning from Rina the last time about their last impromptu visit. Naruto nodded his head firmly. He understood the rule. For years, Rina, who had been his guardian angel, knew about the villagers' treatment of him. Things such as picking on him in the streets, at his home and even worse, other things Naruto would have never personally admitted out loud. He was sure Rina didn't want it to happen again. That's why she used this estate because of the remote location and made sure that little people knew about this address. Hey, you two. It was Rina who spoke, but Karen descended the stairs first. Naruto couldn't help but grin seeing her face with little makeup but her hair tied up in a cute ponytail. She joined him at his side immediately, smiling softly. However, as usual, all eyes were on their guardian Rina Mashiro glowing like an angel in her new dress. It was a blue-purple tie-dye sleeveless tank top and skirt set with a split thigh on one side. The skirt was long and ended at her ankle, yet it was somehow still erotic, with the dress hugging all of her curves. Beautiful as usual, Siren. Rina giggles a little, smacking Kakashi's arm playfully in response before ruffling Sasuke's hair, much to his annoyance is her way of greeting. I'm not Naruto, you know. I don't grin like some cat when people touch my hair. Naruto rolls his eyes before taking Karen by the hand and guiding her outside. The blonde just wanted to enjoy this outing that Kakashi organized. Likely, he just wanted to get in his sister's good graces, or they were going to admit they were dating the team finally. Either way, he wanted this casual outing to happen, even if it was to spend time with his family outside of the estate and anything ninja, even just for a while. Karen hated the blindfold. Why did their eyes need to be covered? To create suspense for the new restaurant Kakashi was taking them to. Sakura was pushing her from the back. Similar to what Kakashi and Sasuke are doing to Rina and Naruto, respectively. Just what were they trying to do? But Naruto knew. He could hear the hustle and bustle of their cohort rushing about in the clearing up ahead, trying to finish their decorations. Naruto couldn't help but smile when he heard Ino shouting they needed to hurry up if they wanted to be on time for their arrival. Just what were they all doing? Naruto's nose twitched, and he realized that he was smelling food, and he recognized it instantly. It was Shuza Akamichi's homemade meat dishes. Naruto's heart pounded loudly in his chest with excitement, and without a second thought, he ran forward. Road, following the scent with his nose. Dobi. Sasuke ran forward, following his idiot teammate, but surprisingly, the blonde was exceptionally much faster than he remembered. With a grunt, he activated his Sharingan and chased after the nutcase. Ino and the others turned their heads at familiar shouting from Sasuke, the usual insults at Naruto. It was like a yellow flash zipped by her, and she started amazed as the yellow blur zigzagged, avoiding everyone to get to the Akamichi table. Finally, the image clears, and she sees a blindfolded Naruto digging into the prime ribs with a satisfied expression. Before she could comprehend precisely what just happened, Sasuke appeared behind him, throttling him. Sakura, from afar, could see what was happening and started to cheer, which caused Karen and Rina to forego their blindfolds to see Naruto now with his blindfold off wrestling with Sasuke on the ground. Karen jumped into the fray without hesitation, pulled Sasuke off him with ease, and punched him hard across the face, knocking him down hard. What the hell is your problem? Sasuke glares at the girl with his prominent bruised cheek until he realizes they were already at the party and everyone is staring at them. He gets up and brushes the dirt off his clothes irritably. Karen realized the number of people and was startled by the number of ninjas. Sume, Hana and Kiba Inuzuka, Shuza and Choji Akamichi, Inoichi and Ino Yamanaka, Shikaku and Shikamaru Nara, Hiyashi, Hinata, Neji and Hanabi Hyuga, Shibi and Shino Aburame, Tsunade and Shizune, Morino Ibiki, Shiranui Genma, and even Mitarashi Anko all recognized from her initial interrogations to join Konoha. What's happening? Rina put her hands on her hips, smiling good-naturedly. It was apparent what was happening. Surprise! Shouted Ino, awkward. Karen continues to look confused. Who's the party for? Quote. Rina pointed upward, and Karen looked up to see a large banner that read, "Congratulations, Uzumaki family." I'm still confused. Ino walked into the center and explained this was a party to congratulate Naruto and Karen for finding each other and Mashiro Rina for taking in 2 orphans of T. He same clan under her wing to nurture. The thought and effort from Ino to come up with the idea and plan for this party made Karen and Naruto grin as he stood up to stand next to his cousin. Sorry for the awkward start, guys. But I can't help it if I smell the cooking of Choji's dad. Shuza's hearty laughter rang out instantly, along with chuckles from the remaining ninjas in amusement. Naruto, your shirt is all dirty, Sakura pointed out. Naruto looked down, and indeed, his shirt had the meat sauce from the food he was trying to eat. He merely shrugged, but Ino would have none of it. She quickly grabbed her present from the gift table and thrust it into Naruto's chest, insisting he open it now and use it. The orange-loving genin blushed bashfully at the attention he was getting, so he hurriedly opened the present to find a long-sleeve orange yam-toned shirt with the Uzumaki emblem stitched on the upper limbs of the sleeves. Wow, this shirt is so cool. The fabric quality is so nice. Shizune smiled, seeing him so happy, but blinked in awe as he started to take off his ruined shirt showing spectacular abs. My goodness, that's new, she exclaims. The other ninjas nodded, also astounded. Naruto blinked, confused, but continued to put on his shirt. What is? Your abs, cried out a flustered Ino. How do you get abs like that in the middle of puberty? Quote. Karen laughed, explaining Rina's Spartan training, but Ino quickly pointed out Karen didn't have abs like that. The redhead shrugs good-naturedly, not caring that much. Tsunade claps her hands, catching everyone's attention. She instructs Naruto to close his eyes, and he obeys, wondering why. There were some muffled sounds he couldn't make out, but Tsunade's speaking voice was gentle as she stood behind him, helping him wear a jacket, he guessed. Rina covered her mouth in shock, tears filling her eyes as Tsunade explained that she heard Naruto stand triumphant over Neji at Chunin Finals, winning the match officially, which meant Naruto had earned his rank long ago. Until recently, Tsunade learned of this, and she felt it was her responsibility to follow up as a Hokage should. Naruto opened his eyes when instructed and got wide-eyed in shock when he realized Tsunade had helped him into a Chunin vest. Congratulations, Naruto. The blonde's body shook, trying not to cry, but the tears flowed anyway when Karen hugged him tightly with Rina looking on, crying too and thanking heaven she had used her waterproof mascara. Finally, the boy got his recognition. Naruto grinned cheerily with his family and team members as they made their way home. It was late into the evening, and the full moon was out, brightly lit the walkway so anyone on the streets could see Naruto in his Chunin vest. Sasuke rolled his eyes at Naruto's demeanor, clearly jealous but saying nothing. Inwardly, he blamed Kakashi. If Kakashi hadn't kept him from his match to be so-called, fashionably, late, he might have kicked Gaara's too and become a Chunin. Speaking of Gaara, he showed up at the party not long after the Uzumaki Happy Tears Fest with his siblings and Junin Sensei in tow. Gaara seemed the same, but he smiled at Naruto and shook his hand in greeting, and the blonde responded heartily. Naruto had been pen pals with Gaara since the Chunin exams. He could not fathom how the two got along swimmingly for some reason. He turns his head and looks over at Karen, who was talking excitedly with Rina. The Uzumaki were carrying many presents in paper bags that Ino had thoughtfully kept aside. Sasuke did not realize that the Uzumaki family had so many connections. The prominent clan heirs and the current heads were all present to show their support for the family. Granted, Naruto had explained that his ancestor was married to Hashirama, and the Uzumaki once had a whole country of their own, which meant that the clan was once tremendous and formidable. Still, they had significantly dwindled to Naruto and Karen due to tragedy. Sasuke visibly twitched. He couldn't deny that he empathized. He knew Naruto had never had a family of his own since birth, and Karen only had her mother before she died, so really, the two probably had almost as much sadness and grief as he did. Sakura, meanwhile, was quiet, much to Kakashi's curiosity. He prodded her gently, wondering what was wrong. She responded softly, her voice seething. The kunoichi, except Hinata, didn't pay me any attention. Ino ignored me as much as she could. Do you know why? He asks gently. HMPH. I don't know. Kakashi frowned beneath his mask and said nothing. He had known Sakura's fangirl tendencies made her isolated, but he didn't realize the camaraderie she once had with the Yamanaka girl had shriveled up this much. Maybe you should approach Ino-chan and ask her. Maybe. The Pinkett frowns. Too bad you and Hinata didn't get any time alone tonight, Rina commented audibly, snapping Sasuke out of his reverie, who immediately turned to Sakura to see if she was paying any attention. Thankfully, she was lost in her thoughts. Her teammates are protective of her. Karen smirks knowingly before whispering to him, I bet the real reason was you were too shy to approach her. What? Of course not. Karen continued to tease him, much to Rina's amusement. Sasuke is too cute. The next morning, Sasuke stared blankly and frowned, realizing Naruto had come to the training ground alone. Where's Mitsukai and Four Eyes? Mitsukai sensei is running the department today. That was a mission gone bad and a lot of severe injuries. Karen-chan starts her hospital rotation with Hinata-chan today too. Quote, Sakura, who was standing beside Sasuke, frowned, confused. How come Hinata-chan and Karen get to start on hospital rotations so soon? Don't they have more training to do? Naruto tilted his head at Sakura, looking at her carefully. Karen is in the advanced medic nin CL with Hinata under Shiz. Un-ne-chan because both of them had prior practice with medical training and healing before Ba-chan started the mandatory medic nin program. Sakura felt her ears turn red. She then remembered that Karen had mentioned that to the team and was slightly annoyed at Naruto's condescending tone. However, Sasuke and Kakashi were baffled by Naruto's choice of words. It was completely different from what he usually used. It was apparent that his new family significantly influenced him. Kakashi-sensei, could you teach us something today? The Junin was surprised that Sakura was asking but obliged. She was only doing it to make up for her earlier emberment. Well, Mitsukai and I have discussed it, and we both agree that you should start doing the catch the eyesore exercise. Quote, Naruto grinned, confusing his teammates more. What is this exercise? Asks Sakura, wary of the glint in the blonde's eye. The exercise is used weekly by the other genin teams organized by the Junin to hone the tracking skills of the genin. Naruto is the main target of this exercise. He gets a head start of half an hour, and the genin must catch him within 3 hours in a specific space. So far, nobody has been successful. Sasuke looked skeptical, but Naruto was too proud to be bluffing at all. Sakura raises her hand. Does the genin team also include Team 8? Kakashi nods and confirms that Team 8 has not had much luck either. Well, I'll track down the Dobi. Naruto smirks. I'd like to see you try, Tem. Quote, Ino and Tenten stared at each other in surprise when Ino entered the room. You're in my seduction CL. But you're younger than me. She has merit to be in the advanced CL. Tenten turns and cringes as Anko comes into the room with a vicious grin. Back in Ino's graduation year, Hokage-s Amma ordered me to observe her CL to see the potential standouts. She struck out. Her eyes watched everything about everyone, yet she acted obliviously, and her hands were quick and precise with the uncanny ability to copy anyone's handwriting perfectly. Quote, Ino's eye twitched, slightly annoyed. She had never sensed that anyone had her watched. My father is the head of TI and a spymaster. Was it that surprising? Anko shrugs. Either way, I have Asuma's permission to move you into my CL with Tenten. I wanted the Hyuga, too, since she is developing faster than the rest of you, and she would be such fun to tease, but Kurine rejected my request. A damn shame it is. Tenten wrinkled her nose, developing. You mean her skill set? No, she's talking about Hinata-chan's. Tenten reddened immediately, her mouth like a gaping fish at Ino's forwardness, causing Anko to howl in laughter. Looks like we're going to have fun together. Quote, Kakashi halted the exercise after half an hour as he explained that he was thoroughly disappointed with Sasuke and Sakura's performance. Part of the catch the eyesore exercise included Naruto and the Team Junin to set up elaborate traps, and the kids failed miserably. First, Sasuke had to help Sakura out of a 2-meter deep hole she fell into, which any trained genin could get out of on their own. Then, Sakura got hit in the face with a balloon filled with honey, which then caused a whole swarm of bees to chase her away from Sasuke. Sasuke was initially able to evade the traps, but the sheer number of machinations and unconventional nature got him entangled in some. The ongoing onslaught irritated Sasuke, making it even more difficult for him to avoid the traps because he couldn't focus. But what disgruntled Kakashi the most was how evident it was that Sasuke and Sakura had no clue how to track Naruto's skill in evasion notwithstanding in the first place. He sighs heavily before giving both genin a stern look, then calls out his blonde student to appear, Naruto. Quote, in a second, the blonde lands next to Kakashi, and his teammates look at him in disbelief. Sakura was the first to speak. We didn't even sense you. How did you do that? Naruto shrugs, I have practiced over the years. How else could I outrun the Anbu, Chunin and the Uchiha police after all the pranks I've done? Sasuke rubbed at his temples, a migraine coming on. How could he not have thought about that more? It was true Naruto had an uncanny ability to get away with his pranks that only the Sandaime Hokage could catch him. Kakashi coughed, getting their attention. Naruto, Mizukai had mentioned that you were interested in adding tracking to your skill set. Quote, yes. Kakashi grins and ruffles the boy's hair, I look forward to ping my tracking expertise onto you and the others. I will also instill special training with you, there's some untapped potential there. Quote, Naruto grins widely at the compliment while Sasuke seethes in annoyance, how could the Dobi be better at something than him? Kakashi-sensei. Sakura raises her hand, may we cut the session short? I have honey all over me, and it's all sticky. Nope. You can go wash up in the river, though. Sakura makes a noise of frustration before stomping off as her teammates watch. So what do we do until she gets back? Naruto asks softly. Kakashi smiles, affectionately ruffling both teens' hair, we can get started on you two showing me the elemental jutsu you need help with. Karen was exhausted. She unlocked the door to her home, her joints aching from all the running around she did in the hospital. Tadaima. Okari. Karen jumped a little, startled by his voice. She sees Naruto in his orange shirt and black joggers descending the stairs. You look tired, Karen-chan. She nodded. She did not realize how exhausting it was for the hospital staff to treat ninjas. Hell, she could not even imagine the mayhem the emergency department, Ed, was in after the supposed Sasuke retrieval mission. You want me to run you a bath? Karen smiles. Naruto was sweet when it came to her. Yes, please, she answers before kissing his cheek, making her cousin blush. Sasuke and Kakashi were walking toward the Hyuga compound together. Sasuke suddenly felt that he wanted to see Hinata, but of course, it irritated him that he couldn't be alone with her properly because Kakashi had to follow him around, but it was not like he had a choice. You know Sasuke, you turn adorable around Hinata Hime. The said genin turned to shoot him a glare, but Kakashi was unperturbed. Your kissing skills suck, by the way. Quote, Sasuke's face flushes, did you seriously have to watch that? I have to keep an eye on you, kid, and as Tsunade-sama says, if you're a good boy in a year, I can recommend removing the seal on your ankle. Quote, Sasuke sighed heavily, thinking about the dark green seal around his left foot. It did not look menacing, but he would never forget the smug expression on the Hokage's face when she told him that it would kill him if he dared leave Konoha. He was sure the blonde leader was not joking. Suddenly, he remembers what he wanted to ask Kakashi. He lifts his head, meeting his gaze. Do you know the Konoha? The older man raises his eyebrow at the question, what brought this on? Quote, she's the Anbu who brought me in, right? When I described her mask to Sakura, she said it should have been her. If Kakashi was surprised that Sakura knew who the Anbu operative was by the mask, he did not show it. Frankly, it was Anbu with distinct fighting styles like hers and his own that made being a silent operative hard because of how easily they were recognized, hence why the Konoha became an Anbu general and why he, himself, changed his mask style every so often so he wouldn't be so easily distinguished. Kakashi. The Junin looks down and ruffles the kid's hair. Don't tell me you have a little crush on the Anbu who beat you down. I didn't know you were a masochist, Sasuke. The Uchiha's face reddened, and his mouth opened agape. Kakashi tried not to laugh at the comical sight. It's not like that. Sure. It's not. You are growing, boy Sasuke. I would be unsurprised if you did have a crush on her. The Kohana is a real siren underneath all that body mesh she wears. Quote. Sasuke blinked, the term siren jogging his memory. Flashback. Owie. A much younger Sasuke sulked over the scrape on his knee. Suddenly he was lifted from the ground, the scent of vanilla and wisteria rising to his nose as an older nin lifted him to sit onto something soft. Sasuke lifted his head and grinned as he recognized her. Rima ne. Itachi chuckles, reaching out a hand to ruffle his brother's hair as he sits in the girl's lap. It's Rina, Sasuke. You're still mispronouncing it. Quote. Rima is a prettier name. Fits better. Mashiro Rina laughed good-naturedly, healing Sasuke's bruise with ease before kissing his cheek. You are adorable, Sasuke. Sasuke grins and lifts his head to see his brother kiss Rina on her cheek. It has to be a crime for you to be this gorgeous and be this loving towards children. Rina blushes and stick her tongue out at him. You're teasing me. Itachi smirks before leaning in and giving her a small kiss on the neck. My siren flower, how tempting you are. Quote. Rina rolled her eyes, but Sasuke could see that her smile lit up her entire face. He was glad this pretty big sister was Itachi's friend. End of flashback. Kakashi waited patiently until Sasuke finally turned to him, a conviction in his voice. Rina is the Kohana, isn't she? Quote. I can't deny or confirm that, answers Kakashi nonchalantly. Sasuke didn't argue. Asking for confirmation of an Anbu identity was frowned upon anyway. How close exactly was she with my brother? Quote. Now. This startled Kakashi. You remember her now? A little, he confesses. I remember when I was smaller, I could never say the name right, so the name Rima ne stuck with me. I didn't see much of her as we got older anymore. Quote. Yes, well, Rina is 3 years older than Itachi. They first met at her Chunin exam. Itachi and his team deployed to stop a rogue psychotic nin from killing everyone, and Rina encountered that, too, so she helped incapacitate the enemy. Afterwards, she healed Itachi's team and helped him to the tower with her teammates. Sasuke's expression was thoughtful as he listened closely. Did my brother and her date? Kakashi tilted his head, wondering how Sasuke would react when he told him that Itachi and Rina were engaged once. Sasuke, however, kept talking. I think he was flirting with her. He used to tell her how beautiful she was and how sweet and nice she played with me when she came to visit. Sasuke's voice was soft, his expression gentle, as if he had recollected his memories. Slowly he remembered Rina coming to his home to play with him or to eat with his family. Sometimes, she even helped him with his academy homework. He had tried to ask her to help with his ninja training, but she always insisted that there was more to life than being a ninja, which meant having fun. Unbeknownst to Sasuke, Kakashi was getting jealous in his reminiscence. He remembered that Itachi was 10 when he first met Rina. For some reason, she always brought out his human side. Usually, he was stoic with everyone, but with Rina, he would smile, glare, smirk and chuckle. 3 years later, he heard rumors that Rina and Itachi got closer after their engagement, and his closer meaning, he heard they kissed pianely in every dark corner of the Anbu barracks. I'm guessing that's a yes. Quote. What? Kakashi snaps. They dated, right? Kakashi closed his eyes, hoping to conceal the irritation in his voice. Not exactly. I think Itachi was infatuated with Rina because she wasn't an average kunoichi and wasn't put off by his demeanor. However, if you're asking if Rina had feelings for Itachi, that I don't know. Nor do I want to know. Sasuke squinted his eyes at Kakashi. He could tell the Junin was keeping something from him. Okuda Miri-sensei raised her head, wondering who could be knocking on her door. She turned to her two patients for permission. Their sensei rolled her eyes at the politeness, but Okuda waited for the patients to voice the okay before asking the person to come in. The wooden door opens to see her longtime friend there, smiling gently. Hi, I just wanted to pop by and say hi to Ino and Anko. Anko grinned and waved her hand vigorously at Rina. Yo, Siren. The former honeypot mistress smirked before coming over to give her friend a one-armed hug. Told you not to call me that in front of kids. They're ninjas, not kids. Rina shrugs before turning to hug Ino too. Tenten opted instead to smile shyly and say hello. I wonder if you two could match up to Mashiro Rina here and me. Rina rolls her eyes at Anko's words. Don't pressure them. You haven't even trained them yet. It's just physicals Okuda-sensei is starting with. Okuda nods, ping the reminder letters to both genin. These are the schedules for your upcoming blood tests and vaccinations. Physicals seem normal, so I doubt there would be any issues. Quote. Both girls pocketed the paper carefully and thanked the doctor. Okuda smiled before lifting her head to speak with Rina directly. You up for lunch today? Can't. I have a shortage of nurses, so I'm also doing the grunt work. It's my 15-minute break right now. Okuda frowns. Come on, you need to eat too. Right, but the next doctor to take over the ED isn't due for another hour, so I need to get all the charts and patient files in order first. Quote. Anko groans. Doctor work sounds tough. You should have stuck being a ninja. Rina grins. I've always been a healer at heart. Plus, I need the money because I'm not doing any solo missions, and since I'm working only part-time at TI and Team 7 is stuck on D ranks for another month and a half. I need the cash flow to meet my expenditure needs. Tenten listened quietly, thinking Rina must have an expensive taste from her observations. At present, the tall woman wore a lavender dress with a high collar and wide neckline under her white doctor's coat. On her left wrist, she wore a gold bracelet, on her other hand, a gemstone ring, and on her feet, white cross-laced heels. Okay, ladies, I'll head out first. Ino smiles as Rina kisses the top of her head affectionately before hugging both Okuda-sensei and Anko. Tenten waves goodbye back as Rina leaves swiftly. Rina, without a doubt in her mind, was likable, kind and affectionate. The Uzumaki cousins were lucky. Kakashi walked behind Sasuke and Hinata, keeping far enough distance to let them think they could talk in private. Meanwhile, he left his mind to wonder about his feelings for Rina and Itachi. They had somewhat of a fling back then, Irina had told him personally, but she explained that it was more that she felt lonely, and Itachi was already in love with her then. Irina categorized her moments with Itachi as them just taking comfort in each other and making sense of the engagement. Kakashi bit his cheek, trying to fight his bubbling jealousy. He must remember that Irina gave herself to him when she turned 18. He was her first. Now, Irina Mashiro is his present girlfriend. She was his. Itachi was her past. Hopefully, she will stay with him forever. Wait, what? Hinata turned to sneak a glance at Kakashi. He seemed lost in his thoughts. She wondered what he was thinking. She turns after feeling a peck on her cheek. Hinata couldn't help but smile at the awkward expression on Sasuke's face. When you're with me, I don't want you looking at anybody else. Quote. Hinata smiles brightly, unable to help herself. The day she had at the ED was grueling, but Sasuke made everything better here. She didn't feel tired anymore, just happy. Thank you. Sasuke frowned. For what? Quote. For loving me. Sasuke blushes at her forwardness, causing her to giggle. He was too cute with her.